racing right now.
He's got traction, he's going around the outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson! Anderson's up to him!
Oh my God! Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's going to get rolled!
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly. This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my God!
God, what?
It's a brand new year and a brand new season of the Majors Series, kicking it off at Watkins Glen with a 2-hour race using the IMSA cars. What a brilliant series this has been on the time we've been broadcasting it here on SimSpeed TV. A test of versatility and a test of endurance across a whole year for many drivers, all competing for the Mario Andretti Trophy. And to bring it to you live here on SimSpeed TV is myself, Reese Gardner, with Bradley Wingard alongside me in the commentary box, Jay Kennedy on production. Brand new season of the International Division here, Brad, and we've certainly got a great field of drivers here to kick off the season.
Yeah, hi Reese, we absolutely do, and what a place to start it at Watkins Glen. Of course, this is a newly scanned version. It's a lot smoother, not a fair bit quicker, but I feel like it's a lot easier to be quick around here, and we've got a nice stacked big grid today, like you said, so it's going to make for some fantastic racing.
Certainly should, and the drivers are in their briefing at the moment. We've got a few things to recap here from last season, particularly who won the championship. It was Cameron Dance for Texsense Fitstye Motorsports. And looking down through the order here, he is not here for the first round of the season as far as I'm aware. So championship defense won't be getting off to the best start, but his championship rival from last season, Thomas Hinz, is in the session driving the Dallara LMP2. And Hinzy only trailed Cam by 18 points last season. So it was a very tight fight, and Hinzy will definitely be looking to stamp his name on the Majors crown this year.
Yeah, he absolutely will. And I remember the Indy 500 last year, how close he was to beating Cam Dance. So he's probably singing his prayers that Cam's not here for round one. And I'm sure he's wanting to capitalize on that. But he's sitting in P6 in practice at the moment. So the next 2 hours seem like there might be a bit of a challenge for him. But I guess we'll have to wait and see.
We will indeed. It's going to be quite the interesting race in terms of strategy as well. We're thinking that both classes, that being LMP2 and GT3, will be making it on 2 pit stops here today. Definitely LMP2 will be making 2 stops because the fuel tank only lasts about 45 to 50 minutes. In the GTs, you can make it about an hour in terms of stint length. So if you were to fuel save, you would be able to make it on 1 stop, but the time that you save by pitting twice, well, actually, you're not really saving any time. I'll correct myself there. You basically, it's the same amount of time to take on a 2-stop versus a 1-stop with fuel savings. So we're probably not going to be seeing much variance in strategy there.
Yeah, there is that opportunity to fuel save, but like you said, it's very one way or no way, and I think 2 hours is not really long enough to really bring in that fuel strategy. So I think it is going to be just a half-assed race for 2 hours and try and maximize those stints.
Indeed. And Watkins Glen, of course, a track very legendary on the iRacing service. Take a brief look at it here. It's a track that has been around since the 1950s. One of the first dedicated road courses to be built in the United States. It's gone through a few layout changes over the years, but this one right here, the boot layout, is the one we are going to be using. And many long straights here. A lot of space between corners, but it certainly provides a challenge, particularly through turns 2 to 4, up through the S's. The walls remain close, as they have throughout the entirety of the track's existence.
Yeah, they absolutely have. There's not a lot of room for error. You can go too wide, but not really advised because it's very quick, it's very narrow, and you kind of want to sit in behind someone through there and you get the draft up the straight. But again, it's very enticing, especially on those opening couple of laps, if you can get the run out of turn 1 to try and get, or even around the outside of turn 2 to have the inside of turn 3. But it's a bit ballsy for those first couple of laps while the tyres are still warming up.
Yeah, that's probably going to create a bit of drama in terms of the interclass passing throughout the race as well. There's a few spots here on this track where it's a bit borderline whether or not you'll be able to get by a GT if you're driving a prototype, and you will have to back off and wait for the next straight. And if you're involved in a battle with another car, that can certainly swing it one way or the other. Car number 46 here, Robert Northway. He's P1 in the practice session at the moment. Some excellent times being put in there from the Kiwi, and of course running as an independent with Kiwi Sim Racing. But 31.6 is the lap time he's set, 4/10 ahead of Jaden Hopp in car 81. Certainly showing a great turn of speed is Robert Northway. And Iago Moraes is the one on top in the GT3 standings in his Audi. Just setting laps in the final minutes of this practice session. Iago from Brazil. We've got quite a few drivers here not from the AusNZ region. Of course, we have Pierre Cousin and Dean Moll from Benelux and the... where is Dean Moll from? Dean Moll, Indiana is the club that I was looking for. He is American. And... they are regular competitors in the international region, but we've had quite a few drivers turn up from other areas as well. We got Isaac Snyder from New York, Craig Hawkins from Virginia, and Adam Halleck from Georgia in terms of US, also Jaden Hock from the West Club of iRacing. We've got Sam Harper from UK and Ireland. We've got Giovanni Pacifici from Italy. Of course, Moraes from Brazil as well. And we've also got Carl Burke from the Northwest US Club and Qixiang Wang from Asia as well. So a nice spread of competitors here in the international region, but it's still dominated by drivers from Australia and New Zealand.
Yeah, it definitely is, and that's kind of what we expect for this time slot. Of course, there's the American and the Euro ones later in the weekend as well, where any of the Oz NZ guys can go over there as well. But it is good to see a couple of other international drivers, not international, our region international drivers in this race as well, because it really adds to what the majors is all about, is everyone getting in on these major events of the year. And even if this is the Oz dedicated race, it's great to see people from America and Europe joining as well.
Of course, with the basically 3 different series running, that being International, European and Americas, we do have some drivers who will have either Europe or Americas as their main series, but oftentimes you'll see drivers take a couple of rounds in the international region when they can't make their main series race for whatever reason. If you're interested in catching the other regions of the majors here on YouTube, our friends at Global Sim Racing Channel, Radeon TV and LSR TV will be broadcasting them. GSRC has European and Americas Pro. You'll be able to catch European at 4:45 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time and Americas at 4:45 p.m. Pacific Time. And Radeon TV is going to be taking up European Sportsman, with LSR TV broadcasting America's Sportsman. Search them up and mark them down in your timetable for this weekend. The Pro and Sportsman splits will run at the same time. Here in the international region, we have only the Pro division being broadcast at the moment, but certainly we will get some fantastic racing here for the Pro division win here in round 1 at Watkins Glen. Under 2 minutes to go now in the practice session, and then we'll be able to get on for 2 hours of racing. The drivers have already done their qualifying throughout the week.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that pans out at the start of the race, because obviously we have the timing board where the practice time's up now, but like you said, all these drivers have put in their qualifying times during the week, so that's not necessarily show of what their qualifying pace was or their race pace in this session, because those sessions do run differently. Although the weather can be very, very similar, it's not identical, and that can play into people's favors and against them. So the first, I think, 15 minutes of this race, we're going to see who really has the pace, and then a bit later in the race we're going to see who has pace but sacrifices their tires and their fuel to get there, which is why we love endurance races. So those times that were on screen just before aren't a perfect show, they're pretty good, but we still have the race to come, and that's where that's where it obviously matters. We're not George Russell, this isn't Mr. Saturday. I mean, it is Saturday, but it's all about the race finish.
That it is. And this brand new rebuild of Watkins Glen from the ground up, with brand new laser scan data and new textures, it's changed the way drivers approach the track somewhat. There's tarmac runoffs now in quite a few areas of the racetrack, so you'll be seeing drivers using way more of the curbs on the exit of the second last corner in particular, and out of turn 1 as well. You will still get an off track if you go too far beyond the curb, but you can straddle your car right over a lot of these curbs without getting an incident. So that also results in a bit of extra racing space for quite a few of our drivers out here as well, which should help when the prototypes start coming up to lap the GTs. Either way, we're now in the race session, and we can go through our grid for round 1 of the International Division of the Majors here at Watkins Glen. It was Isaac Snyder who put in the fastest time in qualifying in prototype. He's going to be starting on the first row alongside Blake Neck. And Shane Bowen and Brett Loxton will be lining up on row 2, with Dwayne Burns and Robert Northway sharing the third row of the grid in 5th and 6th. It's going to be Thomas Hinz and Daniel Stevens 7th and 8th, with Adam Halleck and Jaden Hopp rounding out the top 10. Last season's Sportsman champion J.M. Thomas is going to be running here in 11th place. It's a combined split, I should correct myself from before, of the Pro and Sportsman fields here in the International Division. So you'll be getting those two races in one. Brady McHugh will be starting alongside him.
Starting from row 7 is Gabor Turotsky next to Adrian Stefan in 14th. 15th and 16th is occupied by Nick McMillan and Julian Mookie. Simon Francis and Chaston Teets round out row 9. Row 10 is filled by Carl Burke, the last of the LMP cars on track today. And then we have pole for GT3 with Alexander Sheridan in 20th place. Sam Harper and Dean Mole share row 11. Matt Andrews and Gavin Barber should round out row 12.
They should indeed. Starting out from 6th in GT will be Jonathan Bain, with Josh Banks starting alongside him. Iago Moraes in car 93 starting alongside Mark Newton. Then we got Dave Trevethan and Giovanni Pacifici rounding out the top 30 positions overall, 10th and 11th in GT. Then Harrison Lillas and Jake Fox starting on row 16. It's James Catchpole and Joshua Robinson, with Ryan Mulder and Danny Vassal, 35th and 36th overall, 16th and 17th in the GT class. And going through the rest of our field, that is quite the name there. Glen Watkins racing at Watkins Glen. How is that? Alongside Stuart Elder, with Luke Critchley, Alex Spinozzi, Phil Otto and Peter Matson rounding out the top 42. And then the rest of our field, it's Colin Bruns, Chi Xiang Wang, Pierre Cousin, Corey Horter, Connor Brown. The final few positions, Matt Chalker, Robert Bistrovich, PJ Whiteman, and then double sportsman on the back row with Craig Hawkins and Bradley Matheson bringing out the rear of our field. We're all on the formation lap at the moment, and the GTs have already left a substantial gap to the prototypes here. We're going to be getting 2 separate race starts. And that's something that you typically see here in multi-class events, just allowing a good amount of space between the classes, just to allow them to both get their races off to a reasonable start. And if there's any problems in the prototype field, if there's a crash or something like that, then the GTs won't be compromised as much.
Yeah, it's always good to see those stagnated starts, especially a track like here that is so fast that these GT cars, even if you think 5 seconds is a good amount of time, but at race pace, that's not much. And if there's a crash through the S's like we were talking about before, which is more than likely here, those GT cars are going to have absolutely nowhere to go, and then everyone's out. And that's not what we want. So a stagnated start like this is very good. Everyone wins, and then we get to see the best of both classes at a start, rather than trying to piece things together all at once, which is probably going to happen anyway. But we have a little bit of wiggle room.
That we do. Well, now the drivers will be thinking about how to tackle the start here. And Isaac Snyder, the question is whether he's going to go pretty much as soon as the pace car enters the pits, or if he will wait until the iRacing green flag to get things going. You can certainly get a massive advantage in rolling start events like this if you are on the throttle an instant earlier than your rivals.
Yeah, you absolutely can, but you also have to be careful about not getting too much of a jump, because that's when you get penalised. Passing the car on your row is fine, but if you're in third and you're passing second or first, then you've got to be in big trouble. And for a 2-hour race, that's a lot of racing time, but you don't want a drive-through penalty at the start of 2 hours, or any time during 2 hours, because then your race is pretty much over, unless you get extremely lucky.
Yeah, it's going to be all about keeping it consistent, staying out of trouble, minimizing damage and mistakes in an endurance event like this. It's going to be an interesting fight here between Isaac Snyder and Blake Neck. In terms of practice times, they were only separated by a 10th, so we're thinking they will be very close, fighting for the lead of the prototype class here, leaving a bit of a gap to the pace car to get things going, and our AI pace car driver will bring it into the pits momentarily, and we'll be able to get a start here in the prototype field. So Isaac Snyder will lead them away. When does he decide to go? Green flag about to drop in the International Division of the Majors Series, and Snyder goes early. He gets a good jump over Blake Neck. We are racing at Watkins Glen. Immediately to the left side goes Shane Bowen, who is starting from third, going to follow Neck into turn one. It's side by side for fourth place. Dwayne Burns getting the run on Robert Northway, and a nice clean start in our prototype field as the GT class is already going. They're pretty much single file coming through the final sector.
Yeah, they absolutely are. Green flag dropped for the LMP2 cars, and GT did not hang around. Alex Sheridan got the biggest jump that he possibly could have off of that start. He's got half a second going into turn one, so that's a good start of the race. The rest of the field seems to be getting through that cleanly so far. A lot of cars using all of that runoff as they're allowed to do. So I'm being a bit cautious as well, because you don't want cold tyres on those curbs. They are big, but so far GT3 off to a clean start as well.
Yeah, we saw Matt Andrews making a move on Dean Moll for third in GT. A good start there, but it's looking quite racy here in the midfield in prototypes. Brady McHugh, Daniel Stevens, Jaden Hopp, Adam Halleck, Adrian Stefan, Nick McMillan, all in a line here fighting for those positions side by side between Hopp and Stevens. Will Jaden be able to pull his way up the inside into the heel of the boot? Yes, he will. Daniel Stevens gives him the room and lets him go. Is just up ahead of them. Dwayne Burns trying his best to get a move back here on Thomas Hinds. Started up ahead of him, but looks to me like Burns losing out substantially there in the opening stages of this race. But lap one is now complete for the prototypes. It's amazing how close they bring it to that wall, but they still manage to keep it clean. No big incidents so far.
No, so far so good.
Just as I say that, we have a spinner, Dwayne Burns, in turn one. Looked like the rear end got away from him there. Did he catch the grass? No, actually looks like the rear just decided to say, see you later, son, coming into the first turn. Burns' teammate, Shane Bowen, fighting with Brett Loxton here for third in prototype, and Bowen's looking very strong.
Yeah, he definitely is. He's got Robert Northway very, very close for company behind him. He's fallen back from Brett Loxton just a little bit, but this is a long race. He might just be pacing it, or he might have a long race car rather than a short race car. These tanks are about 40 minutes. I think it was 23 laps worth of fuel for these cars, 24 if you lift and coast well, so I think that's about 40-45 minutes. So you got a bit of time to get the temperatures up to check, and Robert Northway's looking up the inside into the hill. He's still there, but Loxton has Bowen has that runoff to use, and he uses it to his advantage, holds the inside. He's still there. They're going to go 2 by 2 through the rest of the chute into the penultimate corner. This gives Bowen the advantage, and he gets in front of Northway, or stays in front of Northway, sorry, but I think that's only a matter of time because now there's 4 cars involved.
Yeah, it certainly brought Brady McHugh and Thomas Hinds right back into the fold, and Northway in the draft. He's going to go up the inside here into turn one. Does Bowen yield? Oh, McHugh, he was quite late on the brakes there trying to take advantage, and he's going to go side by side. Thomas Hinds makes it 3 wide coming out of turn one and gets 2 for 1 there. Hinsey getting it done right by staying out of trouble. Good stuff there, but it looks like Brady McHugh might be looking to get back at him here coming into the bus stop chicane. McHugh with a better run out of the S's. Robert Northway suffering a few technical issues, and Thomas Hinds not as much straight line speed there. I think he might be running a slightly higher downforce setup.
I think McHugh also had a bit of a draft up the straight from Northway in front as they were side by side, which definitely would have helped him, and then the inside line for the chicane helps as well, but that draft more than anything else helping there. But these guys still line astern, pretty close. Isaac Snyder and Blake Neck have completely checked out. Brett Loxton not too far behind, and then this almighty battle pack behind them. So this 4th place, early days, but it's still on the cards, and you'd want to be in those top 2 for GT3 because they've got the gap, but for top 3 in LMP2, sorry, but the GT3 cars are just glued to each other as we expect.
Yeah, check back in with them briefly. It is still Alexander Sheridan who leads the way, as that was quite the move there from Josh Banks on Gavin Barber around the outside. into the first chicane. They've got some prototype company here. JM Thomas, who did not get off to the best start here in the prototypes, but he's just cleanly working his way through the GT field as we speak, on board with him, and you can see the massive amount of pace difference between LMP2 and GT3 there. It looks to me like the top pack of GT3 is certainly worth looking at this battle here, as Alexander Sheridan tries his best to hold off Sam Harper. And there's Matt Andrews and Iago Moraes in close proximity. You can definitely tell which car Moraes is. He's the bright blue Audi, as JM Thomas is starting to come up on them now. And it'll still be a few laps before we really get our eye into what kind of pace these guys are doing relative to each other, who will have the advantage coming later on in the stint. But Alexander Sheridan has done everything he's needed to at the moment to hold on to this lead from Harper.
Yeah, absolutely. And track position isn't necessarily key here compared to some other tracks like maybe Bathurst or any of the street tracks in particular, but it helps because these S's that the guys are coming up through now, although the GT3 cars don't throw a lot of air turbulence off, they do throw enough, and that can make it very difficult, especially if you're in the LMP2 car passing through there, as we see JM Thomas slicing his way through the GT3 leaders now, and going to have to tuck in behind here, I think, which makes it a bit difficult for Sam Harper to have any sort of run through the carousel, but it doesn't really phase Thomas too much. He's just trying to recover his race, and yeah, the little bit of aero wash can unsettle the GT3 cars through the S's, so being in front there definitely helps.
Yeah, that it does, and I've seen that Glen Watkins and Ashford Perry have disconnected from the session, as that is a big smash. Oh no, that's Brett Loxton. Isaac Snyder has been involved in that as well. Oh my goodness. What on earth went on there up at the top of the LMP2 field? We'll get a virtual racing school replay here. That's big damage for Snyder, starting to make his way through the GT field. It was a coming together in the S's. Bradley Matheson holding his line there. Snyder tried to go to the inside, and big contact, cars flying up through the air. And of course, that would just create further drama. Matheson, rolling back across the track and collecting the field as they came through.
Yeah, that's exactly what we were talking about at the start of the show. Those S's, they are wide enough to go too wide, but that happens so easily. And whether it's the Majors 2 hours, the Glen 6 hours in real life or in sim, any IMSA race that goes there, it's so much trickier than it looks when you're trying to drive there or past traffic, and that's exactly what I was unfortunately expecting to happen. So I'm surprised it took as long as it did, but that was a big one.
Yeah, Brady McHugh ended up getting away with it, but I feel like he might be under fire from race control. I just reviewed that incident. I saw Loxton slowing down because of Bradley Matheson on the racetrack, but McHugh kept coming in at a great rate of speed. He probably would have checked up a bit, did McHugh, but he was still carrying a lot more pace into that incident and ended up hitting Loxton as he slowed down, and that just created a massive pile up, and that's a huge shame to see. Also saw that Robert Northway was involved in that as well. He collected them all. PJ Whiteman, who was the BMW alongside Brett Loxton at the time, is trying to crawl back to the pits with damage. You see him over there on the side of the circuit, but the suspension of that BMW looks completely screwed.
Yeah, I'm no expert when it comes to BMWs, but I'm pretty sure it's not meant to look like that. He's doing a good job trying to get it back to the pits rather than staying stagnant and towing. But you also have to be careful, because we've seen it time and time again. The grip difference between the concrete, bitumen, and the grass is hectic. And if you get a little bit of astro, that can screw you around into oncoming traffic as well, and that could ruin someone else's race. So far so good, but I hope it stays that way for him.
Yeah, I hope so too. We're on board with Daniel Stevens as he just picked his way through that GT pack. Very high stakes in the opening stage as he's trying his best to hold off Adrian Steffen. And it's looking like quite stressful times for both classes at the moment, as we have the classes coming together for the first time. Brett Loxton comes out of the pits just up ahead of these drivers. He's managed to get those repairs done, but he will be a lap down on his class leaders now, and he's come out right in the middle of a pack of GTs. He's got Danny Vassal and Alex Spinozzi with him as the battle pack of Stevens and Stefan try to make their way through. Loxton will be getting blue flags for these guys. He lets Stevens go into the bus stop, and the same for Adrian Stefan, but there's a GT crash up ahead. GT spinner, a blue Mercedes. Who on earth is that? That is Luke Critchley, who's I think had a bit of contact with the fellow Mercedes of Joshua Robertson.
Yeah, that happens again. Multi-class racing around here. That bus stop is...
Oh!
And the story continues.
Yeah, that it does. More GTs coming together ahead of prototypes. It doesn't look like the prototypes were really involved in that one. Stuart Elder in the Energy Racing Porsche. Fortunately, with minimal damage from that, he will get back going, but that's still a setback that you won't want in the early stages of this race, as we ride on board again with Adrian Stefan, still trying to chase down Daniel Stevens here.
Yeah, he's close, and that traffic absolutely has a massive factor, especially the first lap. Everyone's really antsy, like, can I go inside? Are they going to turn on me? When is it safe? And he might have gained time through there, but the next GT3 car, which is coming into turn 1 now, which I think is Dean Mole, that could work against him as well. And of course now they're heading up to the bus stop chicane. We saw what happened last lap. It's so easy to get unsettled when you've got both classes coming together there. And I think that's why this IMSA series in iRacing is probably the most popular series on the schedule, because people curse it, but they love it. Like, traffic is great.
Indeed. Well, through the bus stop again, car number 3, Daniel Stevens, he has had a lot of work to do here. That's just given a big advantage to Adrian Stefan. Stevens having to check up for Dean Mole. You'll notice that the team name is now Kinetic Avatar Racing. So Avatar Auto Racing, that's Shane Bowen and Dwayne Burns joining up with the Kinetic squad for this year for a combined team. Fantastic to see there as Mole tries his best to stay out of the way of these prototypes. Adam Halleck and Nick McMillan just making their way past them then. And, well, the top 4 in GT3, they've been separated from the rest of the field now. They're just up ahead of this pack of prototypes, but it's still Alexander Sheridan who leads the way from Sam Harper, Matt Andrews and Iago Moraes in 3rd and 4th, and Moraes will get passed by Daniel Stevens in the penultimate corner. He's offline and he's gone a bit wide as we go now to a virtual racing school replay. What's this going to be for Carl Burke? Has he come together with a GT coming into this corner? No. Looks like he's actually gone into the toe of the boot with way too much speed and ended up making contact with the GTs anyway.
Yeah, it was all... That rejoin was very questionable, I'm sure. I'm not sure who that was in that black Mercedes. Is probably not very happy with that, let alone the Ferrari that got involved as well. But he spun in his own and he nearly saved it. But unfortunately, contact for... I didn't catch which number Ferrari that was, but BMW running the classic boot through there. Pulls over quite quickly. I'm not sure who that was.
That's
as we
PJ
followed.
Whiteman.
That is, okay.
Who we saw with damage earlier, and I think he's been well spooked by what went on coming out of the S's. He decided, no, I'm just going to stay right out of the way of everyone here, and quite right too. Preservation will be the name of the game for him.
Yeah, absolutely. We still have an hour and 45 minutes to go, and we were saying about GT3 cars having to maybe make one stop, maybe a splash and dash. Who's that's gone off? That's 73 of Peter Matson down in last place in GT3, coming unstuck at the carousel, which is very easy to do. But yeah, those GT3 cars having to make that extra stop, those guys that were involved might be able to recover sometime, but I'm not sure if it's going to be enough. But I guess we'll have to wait and see for an hour and 40 minutes time whether they can or not, but I don't know. Time will tell.
That it shall. Well, Daniel Stevens and Adrian Steffen have their hands full with each other. They have stayed incredibly close together here. These guys battling for top 5 honours in prototype. Blake Neck was able to escape the carnage from before. He now leads by 6.6 seconds from Brady McHugh, but trying around the outside of the bus stop is Adrian Steffen, and oh dear, that's too much curb. Around he goes, and fortunately no other cars will be involved in that, but the Dallara P217 is not a huge fan of curbs at the best of times, and unfortunately on that direction change, you hit the curb wrong at the bus stop, there's only one way that's going to go.
He did a very good job to keep it out of the fence though, so props to him for that, because it's not exactly a slow corner coming out of the bus stop, but the old scan of Watkins Glen, you could absolutely smash the bus stop chicane in the LMP2 car. The Watkins Glen 6 hours last year was very well renowned with how much you could jump across the cars, the curb in those cars. This year, with this scan, not so much. They're that little bit bigger. That happens a lot. The first part you can maybe get away with, but that second part, absolutely no chance.
No chance indeed. Well, this battle for 4th in GT3, for 3rd rather, is hotting up. Matt Andrews starting to lose a bit of time to Iago Moraes here, who's had a great turn of pace last couple of laps. It was a 48.4 for Matt Andrews on the last lap versus a 47.9 for Moraes. So Iago is looking quite pacey here. Audi versus Audi. And in fact, it's Audi versus Audi versus Audi for 2nd place, with the Lamborghini, which shares a chassis with the Audi, out in front. It is still Alexander Sheridan, who has faced off against all challengers and leading the GT3 class by 1.4 seconds as things stand. And I see 5th place, Josh Banks, still lurking in the background.
Yeah, he's not too far away. Just off the tail of these guys, not close enough to be getting a draft, but if they start battling, he's going to be there in a lap, maybe 2. And the Audi and the Lamborghini seem to be not the pick, but definitely a pick, because, well, the top 5 are running Audi Lamborghinis, which, like you said, very similar chassis design. It's just the badge on the front and the bodyworks are different. But then the Porsche of Giovanni is the first non-Audi-like car in the field, and then 2 Mercedes, an Audi again, 2 Mercedes, a bunch of Ferraris in the midfield. So we do have a nice mix of cars today, which is really good. That's probably one of the things people were looking forward to the most about having just LMP2 and GT3, was the variety of GT3 cars that we would be able to have. But it seems like the Audi is still and the Lamborghini to that extent, is still the cream of the crop when it comes to being fast in GT3, around here at least.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you what, the prototypes making their way through that 4th place battle has really brought Josh Banks into the fold here for the top 4. He's trying to line up a move on Iago Moraes here, right on the bumper of his fellow Audi of the Brazilian. And will he line up a move into turn 1 here? They're going to have Robert Northway making his way through, still recovering from his involvement in the wreck just before, but he makes his way by them into turn 1 nice and cleanly. And it's going to be all draft here for Josh Banks as long as he nails the line through the S's. How is this going to work out? Some excellent fighting going on all through the GT field. Pretty much every car in GT3, save for a few, is involved in a battle of some kind.
Yeah, I think Sam Harper and Alexander Sheridan are the 2 kind of standouts in that, because they're so far ahead of the rest of the pack. I mean, Sam Harper's only 2 seconds in front of this battle pack, but it's not the 2/10 between these 3 guys here. But I did say if these guys started battling, then Josh Banks would be right there. Didn't even take that. He just had an absolute phenomenal turn of pace. And he was right up on the back of Iago in, what, 3/4 of a lap? And I'm surprised he didn't go for turn 1, but I think he might be playing a bit of a cautious game, because this is a long race. So if these guys aren't holding him up too much, then he can capitalise on that a little bit and save a bit of fuel to save him when he comes in for his pit stop.
indeed. It's a wise decision, I think. Bradley Matheson, who, having the contact made with him earlier, oh, goodness me. It's Nick McMillan and Adam Halleck here. They are the closest battle in prototype at the moment, and the only real fight for position going on in that class. But just as we flicked away from that GT battle, there's been a little bit of an extension of the gap from Matt Andrews, because Bradley Matheson here, he's been, obviously he has a right to his line, but Josh Banks not too happy with the way the Mercedes is positioning itself. Matheson gets on the brakes nice and early for turn 1 and lets him go. That's created a little bit of extra space now between these cars. It's no longer as tight a battle as it was, but like we've been saying, it's a long race and there's plenty of opportunities to get that gap back.
Yeah, there absolutely is. That 4/10 between the two of them is now 1.8 seconds. That's both cars within draft range of Matt Andrews that leads this pack for 3rd place. And of course, then you've got the 2 prototype drivers of Thomas and Burke behind there as well. Sorry, no, that was Trotsky in behind them as well. But that's a non-issue now. They're both cleared. So bit of an issue for Andrews as well, coming into the, well, not the heel of the boot, the opposite of the heel is
the ankle.
Yeah, I was trying to think of the actual term, but I don't want to bore anyone with my anatomical mumbo jumbo. But yeah, as Bob Iago straight back into it again.
And this is another prototype battle that's emerged in the last couple of moments. It is Simon Francis versus Julian Mookie. They've got Adrian Stefan not too far behind them either. That's going to be Simon Francis making the move on Mookie into the bus stop. A nice run in the draft. Of course, Mookie might have been compromised by a little bit of GT traffic, but a 3-way battle in prototype now for the last position in the top 10. And goodness me, we're only 22 minutes into this race, and so much has happened already. Hopefully things settle down a little bit so that we can actually make some sense of what's going on and try and figure out how things are going to turn out towards the end.
Yeah, it's great that we have great racing, and I think we're going to see a defensive into the heel this time for Miyuki, with Stefan behind, but nothing came of that, which was, I guess that gives us half a second to compose ourselves, but I don't think that really let us go quiet for too long, because Stefan behind is seeming quite racy compared to Julian Mookie in front.
Moraes has made the move for 3rd place on Matt Andrews coming into the bus stop as we continue to check in with this fight. That's a lot of GT traffic. That's going to make things a bit difficult here for our prototypes. Oh, gently does it. Everyone manages to avoid each other. Oh, that was so close to being a big incident there with that battle between, I think that might be Mookie and Stefan, who are together at the moment. Yes, it is Mookie and Stefan. So will Mookie lose another position here coming into the bus stop? He certainly will. The draft is very strong for Adrian Stefan, and Mookie, I think, very wisely. Oh dear, that's Thomas Hinz, who's gone for a bit of a spin in the ankle, tried his best to get it back going, but ended up getting into the wall. That car doesn't look like it's doing a good job at turning right as things stand, and Hinze was running reasonably well up in towards the top 5, but it looks like that might have been contact with a GT. We'll go back a bit further to see how this panned out.
Yeah, that was, I'm sure he's very much not happy with that. He's not even able to make the toe of the boot. That car is extremely broken. He's going around the outside of the, is that Adrian Sheridan's Lamborghini? I think it was. Coming down into the inside of the ankle of the boot, and Porsche just runs a little bit wide, and Hinz has nowhere to go.
And oh dear, Hinze got collected by the Vector car of Isaac Snyder. Certainly not the first incident that Snyder's been involved in today. Remember, Snyder was our pole sitter, and wow, that was absolutely huge. And very unfortunate there that that Pacifici ran wide when he did. He was, I think, trying his best to stay, give Thomas Hinz a bit of space, but Hinze putting his car in around the outside. The door was closing as the Porsche went a little straight on coming out of the corner. And, of course, further dramas there for Isaac Snyder. But Thomas Hinz has managed to make it back into the pits. He will get a spare car, which you are entitled to in the Majors Series, but you only get one spare car in this series, so you've got to be careful about when to do it. As goodness me, Adrian Stefan trying his best to... I think that's Bradley Matheson they're making their way around there. And, wow, goodness me. Simon Francis still leading this pack here for 9th place in prototype, promoted to 9th thanks to the incident with Thomas Hinz and Adrian Stefan. That was opportunistic, fantastic stuff, making his way around the outside, and he'll immediately cover off Simon Francis coming into the heel of the boot. And that is one of the things that makes multi-class racing so magic. If a driver in front of you is compromised due to traffic, you could be right there to take advantage.
Yeah, that's exactly it. That's the ebb and flow that we always talk about when it comes to multi-class racing, and Stefan just got the absolute ebb out of that flow, and it wasn't just, you know, using the traffic to his advantage. That was just such a good acceleration out of that corner as well, and that was fantastic. I want to watch that again and again and again, because that was perfectly executed. I don't think there's much more he could have done right there.
Yeah, fantastic stuff there from Adrian Stefan, and he has checked out from them as they've encountered a little bit more traffic coming through the opening corners of the lap. It's Dave Trevethan that they've made their way past there, coming into the S's. Dave is currently running in 30th overall, and that's 20th in GT3. And, seeing... looking like Gavin Barber has made his way into the pits in GT3 as well, probably to get some damage repaired from earlier. And we'll get a bit of an update on Glen Watkins. It's a shame that we weren't able to see more racing action from him, but the reason he is out is there's a thunderstorm in his area, and he suffered a blackout, and that's one of the things you've got to watch out for in sim racing. Your fate depends on technology just as much as anything else. We're right on board with Adam Halleck, who's continuing to fight here with Nick McMillan and Shane Bowen. Remember, Shane has been holding on well to a top 5 position here, and I'll correct myself from before. Thomas Hinz was running third at the time, or running around in third at the time of his incident, which has taken him out of contention. But the kinetic avatar car making his way past Marias there, I believe that was, in the blue Audi. Will this be a good exit for car 36? Adam Halleck looked like a pretty good run on acceleration as they make their way around more GTs. What's going to happen here to Bowen? A run. That is fantastic. That wing is so thin, and actually looks like there's a bit of a crook there in the shark fin. Is that some potential damage there for Shane Bowen? Well, he doesn't have to worry about Adam Halleck now. He got held up by a couple of GTs coming into the bus stop.
Yeah, again,
that's our leader.
In GT3, it absolutely was, yeah. I was also going to note that since getting past Josh Banks and Matt Andrews, Iago Moraes has absolutely left them behind, and he's catching in on Sam Harper for P2 at a rate of knots. He's closed, I think it was a 2.8 second gap down to 1.1 seconds in 1.5 laps. He's absolutely flying. A 146.4 last lap for Iago Moraes to a 147.9 for Sam Harper. Of course, traffic plays its part in that as well, but that's a significant difference in lap speed.
That it is, and Moraes not suffering too much trouble from Adrian Stefan, who's still checking out from that battle he was in before, making his way through the GTs at a great rate of knots. And Simon Francis and Julian Mookie are now separated by, let's say, the better part of a second as they make their way past Josh Banks, and Moraes will yield, and Sam Harper yielding to Simon Francis now coming through turn 1. But this battle for 9th in GT really hotting up. We've got Mulder, Ben and Newton. Ben and Newton, of course, part of the Middle Finger Racing squad, who have been a veteran competitor in the Majors Series and trying to line up a move here in their Mercedes.
Yeah, he's got a pretty decent run out of turn one. The Ferrari, last time I checked, has better top speed, but that Mercedes just keeps on accelerating. So it's kind of the car most would pick at a track like this. It is very stable as well. He's got to run, but it's not enough. Nice and patient into the bus stop, and it just, both of those cars just destroy those curves like they're nothing. And I miss racing Mercedes. I need to do that more, but he's doing well. Where is he? He's down 2 spots from his starting position. He started 9th, he's down to 11th, but we still got 90 minutes of racing. So, God, we still got 90 minutes of racing left. That's insane. So much has happened already.
Yeah, exactly. Took the words right out of my mouth. So much has happened in the last half hour, and I feel like I've just gone through a 3-hour race myself with how much has gone on. Man, this is going to be tight. It actually looks like a change of position here between McMillan and Halleck, and look who's creeping up. Dwayne Burns trying to recover as Halleck trying on the inside of McMillan through the S's. He's going to get the run potentially in the draft down the straight as they make their way past the top runners in GT. Will Dwayne Burns be able to line up a move here? Remember, Burns spun at turn 1 early on, and he's been on a recovery drive ever since, currently sitting in 8th thanks to issues for other prototypes. But McMillan and Halleck, they are well and truly involved with each other right now. And if you look at the ticker up at the top of the screen, you'll notice that some drivers are highlighted in yellow, some are highlighted in green. Well, the yellow highlighted drivers are our pro drivers, and green is sportsmen. So that gives you an idea of where the position fights are in both of our sub-championships here.
Yeah, I was trying to find a segue for that for a while, but more importantly, thank you for covering that, Reese, but more importantly, Iago Morales has got past Sam Harper for P2 in GT3 and nearly gets taken out by Robert Northway, just for good measure. So yeah, Banks has been following Moraes through, catching Sam Harper. Now he's going to benefit from that as well, and Harper behind now, probably going to not go for it there, I wouldn't, but yeah, Moraes and Josh Banks have just been absolutely flying. And yeah, so while you were talking, there was a very nice move into the bus stop for Moraes on Sam Harper.
Yeah, looking like it, and yeah, it hasn't been a very good lap for Sam Harper. He was slightly compromised through the second half of that lap, so Josh Banks has made his way past him. This three-way battle is continuing to astound me for what is now 6th in prototype. McMillan, Halleck and Burns. And the key for Dwayne here, remember, he started in 5th, so he certainly has the 1-lap pace over these guys, but with the way they ebb and flow with the traffic, it's going to be difficult. There's Blake Neck, no, sorry, that's Chaston Teets, who is, I think, our first scheduled pitter in prototype. He's been in the pits now for 16 seconds, and that will undoubtedly be fuel getting put into that car. You can double stint tyres in the prototypes. Not too sure if triple stinting is a viable option, as Nick McMillan, he's still trying to keep Adam Halleck behind him. And they got quite the gaggle of GTs up ahead of them. How is this going to turn out? McMillan having to go tight here, and just enough room on the inside given by the Porsche of Matt Chalker, with who's fighting with Colin Bruns there for 38th overall. They got Danny Vassell making their way by him as well. It looks like the prototypes have all cleared those GTs, and they still stay as close together as they were. But Dwayne Burns with a great run here through the S's. Will he be able to line up a move on Adam Halleck here at the end of the straight? Halleck is giving him the room here on the inside.
Yeah, I think you know when your goose is cooked, to use probably one of my least favourite terms, but you know when they have the run, and it's not really worth you losing massive amounts of time trying to fight them into a corner that has one racing line, especially when it's as bumpy as it is. And well, this is like Friday afternoon pickup at school. Everyone is there trying to get through as quickly as they can. That front straightaway, was absolute chaos, but at least it was the front straightaway, not turns 2, 3 and 4, because that probably would have ended a little bit differently. But now, Adam Halleck at the back of this pack, still right there as well. So sacrificing one position isn't really going to lose him that much time. Probably getting up towards fuel windows now. Probably one more lap for these guys, maybe two at most. So it might be a bit of a strategic lifting let through just to save a little bit of extra fuel.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah. The ability to extend your stint by a lap could prove very crucial in these later stages. That's a problem for Josh Banks. Looks like he's gone for a bit of a spin at the bus stop chicane. Josh had made his way into third place, and he was actually trying to line up a move here on Moraes. They had a prototype make their way through on him, but Banks just caught the grass on the outside of the corner. No fault of Moraes there, and good on everyone else to take avoiding action there.
Yeah, it's I think that is, well, very clearly the fastest part of the track. So that was very well saved by Josh Banks to get it stopped in time and not hit anything, and very well driven by everyone else to avoid him as well. Because, yeah, it can be very difficult to not hit a spinning car through there, and thankfully he kind of just skated in a straight line and hit the brakes like we tell everyone to do, is hit the brakes, and that was a very, very good job at avoiding a major accident.
Well, we're looking at our overall leader, Blake Neck, at the moment, as he is all on his lonesome in the lead. Brady McHugh will bring his prototype in, and McHugh was running in second at the time. Remember, he was one of the cars involved in that big incident on the back stretch early on. So now is the time where we will start seeing the prototypes well and truly make their way into the lane now that we're past the 35-minute mark. I think with a bit of extra fuel saving, you would be able to make it about, I don't know, 40. Yeah, I'll have to correct myself. I keep forgetting that the fuel tank for the prototype has been added to, I think, recently, and the fuel usage has changed as well. So stint length is actually around 35 minutes, and it seems that we might be seeing some 3-stoppers from the prototypes if those numbers end up working out.
I'm not sure how to feel about that. I think if Blake Nix gets this lap, he's in a very good chance of winning it. If he gets another one, then unless he gets taken out, then he's in absolute prime position. And the fact that he's gone what will be 2 extra laps on fuel compared to Brady McHugh in net second is insane. Like, I don't know if or how much lifting coasting Blake is doing. And we know that Blake Neck is no slouch either. Like, he's a quick driver and he knows what he's doing. But if he's getting those extra 2 laps as well, yeah, he's doing a big lift and coast in the chicane. I just went on board with him, and I think that's why. And he's been very patient with the GT3 cars as well, which is gaining him that fuel as well. So, I don't know, this could be very dangerous for everyone else.
Yeah, that it could, as Jaden Hopp makes his way in. It's a hive of activity here in Prototype in the pit lane. We've got Bowen, Burns and Halleck, that 3-way battle, bringing themselves in. So Dwayne Burns has put on a great recovery drive here to be able to get himself back into a potential top 5 position. Brady McHugh is going to filter back through into third. He's already completed his stop. It is McMillan and Thomas fighting for 11th place at the moment. And this will be an interesting battle to see who wins the race off pit road between these two. We won't be seeing many prototypes take tyres here. Just coming up on some GT traffic coming into the pit lane. And oh wow, they actually stay out another lap. They, I think, working their way through the GT traffic as, well, actually Thomas has already stopped, we're hearing. And McMillan has just come out of the pits, so that everything I just said means absolutely nothing. But
Blake Neck, on
is
the
in.
other hand, yeah. This one we undisputedly know that he is now in the pits. Which the fact he's getting 2 extra laps, like I said, is going to be absolutely playing right into his hands. And if this will be very close on a 2-stop, so he might have to save a bit of extra fuel over the next stop to make it home. But he's in the position where he can drop his lap times back a second and a half per lap just to save that fuel, and he'll be safe. So that was an excellent first stint for Blake Neck, not that I'm surprised at all by that.
And Simon Francis, the last car in the prototype class to not have made a stop so far, brings it in. So the field is now cleansed. But Blake Neck still in the pit lane. It looks like he's taken tyres on that stop. 55.8 second stop time there for Blake Neck. He's fallen down to third. Brady McHugh and Robert Northway, they didn't take tyres, just fuel for them. They filtered through into the top 2.
I am very bamboozled by that now. I thought, tyres and next stop maybe, or even the third stop to give you a missile of a car home if you take that third stop, but I'm very confused as to why Blake took tyres, unless he knows that he has a pace advantage over everyone, and now he has a bit of a fuel advantage as well. But I don't know if you can make up that big of a gap, because that was 22 seconds slower, his pit stop.
Tyres are worth about 20 seconds at a pit stop.
Oh, there we go, yeah. So that's a big deficit to have to make up. Yeah, exactly. That's a big deficit he's going to have to make up, but I won't be surprised if he does.
Yeah, and don't forget, on his next pit stop, he definitely won't take tyres. His double stinting is quite easy here in the prototypes. Triple stinting, though, is another story entirely. Well, it's now a 4-way battle for 7th in prototype. Shane Bowen in car 8 ahead of Nick McMillan here. They got J.M. Thomas and Adam Halleck right behind them as well. So all of that ebbing and flowing in the pits. Actually, looks like J.M. Thomas on his last stop was only stopped for 4.6 seconds. And remember that he has spent 25 laps on that particular tank. He would have pitted to repair a little bit of damage earlier, I would presume. So J.M. Thomas is out of position at the moment here compared to everyone else.
And just as you say that, he's pulled into the pits pretty much right on cue. So I think he was enjoying a little bit of excitement before his pit stop, but that pretty much puts him a stop behind, well, 3/4 of a stop behind everyone else because of, like you said, that incident at the start of the race and starting further behind than everyone else. So it'll be interesting to see where he finishes up, coming in from 11th position. He's now in 12th position, so I don't know, I'm excited to see where he finishes up, because we never really know until they cross the line in these sort of races. So especially with drivers like Thomas Hinz and Brett Loxton out, like 2 of our quickest guys. So not Brett Loxton, sorry,
Isaac Snyder.
That's the one, thank you. Yeah, my timing screen keeps messing up. Yeah, so it could be very interesting to see how the rest of his race plays out.
Simon Francis has come back into the pit lane only 1 lap after exiting. Not too sure what the deal is there for Simon. Maybe he accidentally underfueled it. Perhaps he got a speeding in pits penalty. Looks like he's not gone into the box. So, yeah, I think that's definitely a penalty there for Simon Francis, which is a shame for him, considering he was right in the mix of the top 10 fight in prototype.
Yeah, it's little things that ruin races, and that's one of them. It's so not easy to do, but it is easy to do, and people getting a lot of penalties recently with pit entry and pit exit speeds and going on or coming off of the limiter at the wrong time. So I'm not sure if that's what happened, but it's probably up there with likely scenarios. But now he's got a lot of time to make up. He's a lap down on the car next in class, so that's a lot of time to have to make up.
Looking at this onboard from Halleck, you can see how much the first curb and the bus stop affects you as that's Iago Moraes with a huge problem there. Very heavy damage, and just trying his best to stay out of the way of everyone. Iago had worked his way up to second in the GT class. We'll get a replay of this to see what happened to the Brazilian. Was this contact with a prototype potentially? Yes, it was. And oh dear, this is going to be quite awkward. Making their way through the toe of the boot, and Brady McHugh was trying to make his way through here. He approached at a full-on racing speed. He tried to split these two GTs, and that ended up sending Moraes into the wall. I think Brady McHugh needs to calm things down.
Oh no! Oh, he's just hit someone else as well. I think that was Brown. He's just been taken out as Iago's been crawling back to the pits. He's tried to steer out of the way and has just hit someone else. I'm trying to find who that was. We'll see it on the replay very, very shortly. These guys get through fine, and then watch that Ferrari. Tries to get out of the way. Not that Ferrari. The next Ferrari.
Waiting for a Ferrari to emerge in the back of the image. I think I see him there just coming out of the heel of the boot. And Moraes will be trying his best to stay out of the way of everyone here, but that car is nigh uncontrollable. Filtering over to the other side of the track. Yeah, that car is not looking good. Here we go, this might be the Ferrari. Oh dear. Oh no. Moraes, I think he tried to steer out of the way of the prototypes. He wasn't quite sure where to go. But the Ferrari was right there of Brown.
That's probably the worst way to get taken out of a race. And Iago is not gone into the pits. He's still circulating at 100 k's an hour, which is, well, as we've seen, extremely dangerous, because that's how cars get taken out. And he's just steered into the fence coming onto the back straightaway. I think he's just tried to steer into a LMP2 car. I think was the one that took him out. I'm not sure though. I don't want to, weave stories that aren't true, but that's exactly what it looks like.
Well, we see that Matt Andrews has just lost the position there to Josh Banks in the midst of all of the prototype traffic and lapped GT traffic that these guys are trying to negotiate. So third place in GT is still very much alive. Matt Andrews, previously part of TechSense Fitstyle Motorsport, and it's no secret, I think, what his affiliation is now, a privateer. You see it emblazoned in huge letters on the side of his Audi, but still managing to keep himself within a shot here of a podium, and he'll be hoping that there are some further issues for Banks and Harper up ahead of him further down the line. Alexander Sheridan is very much untroubled in the lead of GT at the moment. He currently leads the class by 10 seconds over Sam Harper.
Yeah, Sheridan has been running a pretty flawless race. Sorry, my screen has an aneurysm, and so do I apparently. It's exactly where you want to be. It's not all about speed, but if you have it, use it. And an hour and 11 minutes to go, give or take some change, I think that's within stock territory nearly for a GT3 car to fill up and then make it home from here. But having that gap that he has is pretty much perfect. He's got, like Blake Neck, he's got a lot of room to work with different strategies as they come up.
I just took a look at that incident you were talking about with Moraes trying to steer into Brady McHugh down the back stretch, and yeah, I don't want to try and say one way or the other, but yeah, it definitely looks like Moraes was quite angry at the 06, and I understand completely personally. I think McHugh has been getting away with murder in this race so far with the way he's been negotiating this GT traffic and still escaping. Oh my goodness! But McMillan and Stefan with Shane Bowen, it seems, having a problem just up ahead of those guys. That looked pretty leery coming into the bus stop chicane.
I don't think we've had a lap where something Larry hasn't happened into the bus stop chicane, but that's definitely up there because that was, yeah, very deep, and that grass is not exactly grippy. He pulls it up very well. That could have gone a lot worse, but I'm wondering if he has floor damage, because anyone that's driven any sort of prototype or Formula car in iRacing knows how fragile those under trays are. And at a track like this where top speed is almost king, that makes a massive difference on A, your top speed, and B, your fuel burn. So hopefully he cheated death and hasn't actually had anything come from that, but I think in a couple of laps we'll start to find out.
Good move there from Joshua Robertson on Alex Spinozzi. That's for 10th place in the GT class. Looks like Spinozzi is still keeping himself right in there with the Mercedes. They've got Robert Northway coming up to pass them now, and it was a slightly compromised exit from Robertson. He had to get out of the throttle on the exit of the final turn, so it looks like Spinozzi might be able to get through here at turn 1 side by side, but oh goodness me, great entry there from Robertson, sweeping back around the outside to keep the position.
Yeah, absolutely was, and that's why we love the new version of Watkins Glen, because there is so much more tarmac that there used to be. You can pull moves like that off without really endangering people too much. Like, there is obviously a risk with certain moves, that's racing, but this new scan that we've been wanting for so long is doing everything that we wanted it to, and it's been absolutely worth the wait to see moves like that so consistently, no matter what people are driving.
Oh, here we go for second now in GT. Sam Harper trying his best to keep Josh Banks behind him, defensive into the left-hander. They've got a prototype with them as well, I think. No, actually, they've got more GTs right behind them there. It's been a good comeback here from Josh Banks, making his way past Matt Andrews a bit earlier and now setting his sights on Sam Harper to try and take second in class. And it really is a battle for second on back in GT, with Alexander Sheridan completely untroubled in the lead. Let's see what these two Audis can do then, coming up through the S's and onto the back stretch. They haven't got any help with draft from cars up ahead, but Josh Banks with great draft assistance here will draw alongside Harper, coming down into the bus stop, and Harper gets on the brakes early, gives Banks the position. I think he recognises it's not worth fighting too hard at this stage. We've still got over an hour to go.
Yeah, that's exactly right, and it's not the first time that Banks has passed Harper either. Of course, Banks and Iago got passed about 15-20 minutes ago before they both had their individual incidents. So I think Sam Harper knows that his race isn't with Josh Banks, and if he can stay close enough, then, oh Jesus, and not be involved in potential incidents like that, that he still has a shot of getting that second place or consolidating a very, very strong third place on top of that.
All right, take two for Carl Burke, trying to make his way past these GTs. A bit of an extra gap between Banks and Harper, but Banks will be compromised with an inside entry there. That might allow Harper to gain an extra couple of tenths, and sticking to the inside on the exit as well. It's not going to be good there for the second Audi, and wow, Harper right into the runoff area coming out of the penultimate corner. That's certainly not where he'd want to be, as Julian Mookie then makes his way past Banks just up ahead.
Yeah, again, we sing our prayers for that tarmac runoff that we have there, because otherwise that was race over for Sam Harper. And he's been driving a very very solid race. He's down 1 spot from where he started, but his lap times have been relatively consistent, keeping lap traffic in mind. So we are thankful for that. And Matt Andrews, about 1.2 seconds behind Sam Harper now. Matt Andrews last lap with a 48 flat, Harper with a 48.5, but we have to take into account that massive hold up with traffic as well. So last lap Andrews has to gain, but check back in, and I'll check back in a couple of laps, see how that gap sits, because it's staying pretty stagnant at the moment.
Yeah, one gap that is ebbing and flowing is this one. Daniel Stevens still trying his best to maintain 4th in prototype, but Dwayne Burns continuing his brilliant recovery from his incident earlier. Meanwhile, 7th and 8th in GT. We got Mulder and Newton very close. It is Ferrari versus Mercedes once again, with Newton getting the Middle Finger Racing Mercedes right on the rear bumper of Ryan Mulder's Ferrari. Ryan, of course, is one of the drivers that has gained the most positions here, thanks to drivers having their issues, and Mark Newton having to compromise his exit to let a couple of prototypes by. So that's put paid to that battle for now. He's still got his teammate Jonathan Bean up behind him to provide some support. We'll have to wait and see how that one turns out. But this is a three-way fight. And then we've got a three-way fight behind them with Robertson, Spinozzi and Trevethan as the battle for 9th eventuates. Julian Mookie just getting through on Robert Northway, but Northway's going to try and get him back here. Very close at those speeds. That is heart and mouth stuff in a prototype, but Northway making his way right back past. So Northway continuing his recovery as well.
I know these guys are very, very good racers, and I won't deny that for a second, but I don't know how they can race that close at those speeds. It's just insane. I probably would have been in the fence on lap 2 racing like that, so props to them. But we go back to this battle. Newton on the inside going into the bus stop chicane. Power of his Mercedes pulling him down the straight. Gets past. No, sorry. My iRacing is crashed, so that is
okay.
Fantastic.
I shall take over here as Mulder now trying to keep Jonathan Bean behind him. They did have the prototype of Chaston Teets make his way through. Seems that Bean is going to have to wait a little more here to try and get the move done. It's a good exit for Ryan Mulder. And we did see Harrison Lilas bring his number 50 Audi into the pits. One of the first scheduled stops of the night for GT. We have had Gavin Barber and Stuart Elder pit a bit earlier. We've also got Pierre Cousin, Matt Chalker and Corey Horter in the pit lane in GT, and it looks like our top 3 as well. Alexander Sheridan, Josh Banks and Matt Andrews have all made their way into the lane. Sam Harper, meanwhile, in the 52, is staying out an extra lap.
I'm wondering if that's why his laps have been a little bit slower than those around him. He's been lapping, like I said, lapping relatively consistently with traffic in mind. The last lap was one of his best laps that I've seen him do. So, I don't know, maybe he's got his number and he's running to that, and his number isn't necessarily the lap that comes up on the dash. So, he does have a bit of GT3 traffic around him at the moment, which is not going to be helping his strategy, but they're doing their best to get out of the way as quickly as they possibly can. A little bit of wiggle out of there, actually, but he'll be on the flashes, no doubt, if he gets held up too much, but I expect we'll probably see him in this lap. If he goes for one more, then mind blown.
Well, it's right on cue for a one stop for Sam Harper. The other drivers in the top 5 in GT3, if they want to keep themselves to a one-stop strategy, they are going to have to do a bit more lifting and coasting at this stage, as Chi Xiang Wang brings it into the lane as well. Looks like lot of drivers have made it out. Alexander Sheridan has lost quite a few seconds in the pit lane. Stopped for 1 minute and 10 seconds. I'm wondering if he decided to, or accidentally left tyres on in the pit stop. Not too sure what the deal is there, but Daniel Stevens now has been passed by Dwayne Burns and struggling a little to keep his prototype going there. It looks to me as though Matt Andrews was the only one out of those pitters that came in earlier to do fuel only, as Harper, Moll and Bain are now in the lane. Mark Newton and Joshua Robertson will filter through into the top 2 places in GT3.
Alexander Sheraton now coming up to the heel of the boot behind Colin Bruns' Mercedes. So Sam Harper still in the lane. They are, as he goes up onto the jacks as I say that, so he's getting tyres as well. Maybe that's the strategy, save the tyres but then have the nice quick, save the fuel and then have the nice quick tyres is what I meant to say. Sheridan coming around the final corner now, still stuck behind Colin Bruns. Stuck is the wrong word, but thereabouts. So Blake Neck coming through, our overall leader, as Dean Moll comes out of the pits now. And Harper leaving now as well.
Yeah, well, Dean Moll's going to come out in 6th in GT. So our current running order of the cars that have pitted so far in GT is going to be Matt Andrews, Dean Moll, Alexander Sheridan, and it's been a very good run for Dean Moll actually. He'll have promoted himself into effective 2nd in GT as things stand. And Josh Banks and Jonathan Bain, the next 2 of the cars that have pitted. Colin Bruns has yet to bring his car into the lane. Same can be said for our top 4 at the moment in GT. That's Mark Newton, Josh Robertson, Alex Spinozzi and Dave Trevethan, as this prototype battle continues to rage on between Daniel Stevens and Dwayne Burns, making their way around a bit of GT traffic in the S's. That's always scary. They got the 209 of Brett Loxton up ahead of them. And Loxton is one of those drivers who's trying his best to bring himself back up into a reasonable position. After his incident earlier, he's currently running in 14th in class, which is not quite the reflection of the pace that he has shown.
No, it's absolutely not, and he's doing well to recover. So, I mean, he is down 10 spots, like we said, because of that incident, and the fact that he's continued going, whereas other drivers at this point might have given up. We have had a few retirements of this race, as we would kind of expect with some of the incidents we saw in the first half an hour. But to see drivers like Brett Loxton and Thomas Hinz still circulating, Thomas Hinz 2 laps down on the lead on the top 10 LMP2 drivers. So still circulating, still getting those lap times up, and going to be interesting to see how the strategy plays out, because anyone who did 22 to 20 or 23 laps are going to have to make their 3rd stop. So if you can do 26 laps to attain in LMP2, then you save yourself a pit stop, which is, even though it'll only be a short stop, it's like 35 seconds minimum. So drivers like Blake Neck are probably, like I said, a pretty good position at the moment if they can do those extra laps.
Yeah, I would say Blake Neck's probably the favourite to win at this stage in prototype. Brady McHugh is still holding on to the lead, and he's been putting in some good times out there. But Blake Neck continuing to chip away at that lead, and on those fresher tyres as well. Spinozzi and Robertson, meanwhile, have come into the lane, and so is Mark Newton. He is now at a stop, as you can see, and that's going to promote Matt Andrews, Dean Moll and Alexander Sheridan into your top 3. There is Matt Andrews. He will come through to take the lead in GT once again. But I'm very impressed with the run that Dean Moll has gotten. I mean, not the best of pit stop times for Dean Moll. You know, pretty consistent with what we've seen with other drivers, but 1 minute 11 in terms of lane time, which again is pretty even with Matt Andrews, so I'm not too sure where he's gotten all that advantage. Mark Newton, meanwhile, has come out of the pits in 4th place. That is pretty good there for him, not taking tyres in that stop. But again, I think this is a consequence of other drivers having traffic problems, because Mark Newton was not quite a factor in the top 4 battle before. He's come out right behind who is that up there? Is that Sam Harper?
Alex Sheridan.
No.
Is it not?
No, it's not. Sheridan is in a Lamborghini, and that's a oh yeah, just in front of Alexander Sheridan. For some reason, I was the broadcast was looking at Sam Harper and Jonathan Bain at the time. I thought that Bain was Newton, but Alexander Sheridan now down in that 3rd spot and trying to chase down Dean Moll here.
Yeah, Sheridan's pit cycle is, we see Thomas Hinz in the lane for, I guess, what is his first official stop. Is that what we're going to call it? Because his last one probably wasn't as official as he wanted it to be. But I'm kind of still perplexed and confused by Sheridan's pit strategy, because he was miles in the lead and now he's in 3rd, 2.5 seconds behind the leader. So I don't know if that's some alternate strategy that I'm not aware of, but I don't know. I'm still scratching my head.
Yeah, I am too. Maybe Sheridan feels that that he needs that fresh rubber under him, try and maximise his pace as much as possible in the Lamborghini. On board with him as one of the prototypes makes his way through. That was Dwayne Burns that just went through there, 4th in prototype. And sweeping around the outside of Dean Moll, he's going to grab Matt Andrews coming into the angle of the boot. Burns is still having to think about Daniel Stevens behind him as Gavin Barber and Dave Trevethan trade places. Coming into the bus stop, that's Trevethan up to 9th now. It's been a pretty good run for him so far. And Ryan Mulder, who we were focusing on a little earlier, now has James Catchpole up behind him, and it's amazing how much speed the prototypes can take through there. That was Thomas Hinz, who had just come out of the pits and working his way up. And having a look at Thomas Hinz's pit stop time, only 34.2 seconds stopped, so no tyres there, just fuel. Oh no, Josh Banks has gone for a spin here, and it looks like Dwayne Burns has been involved in that as well. Oh, take care on the re-entry, Josh. Looks to me, checking this incident back, Burns was on the outside of Banks coming into the left-hand hairpin, and I mean, Banks was turning in all right, but I get the feeling that Dwayne Burns was, I think, thinking that he would stick to the inside a little more than he did. This is quite a ways back on the replay, but we'll see Dwayne Burns slowly making his way up towards the Audi, and the incident will happen within the next 20 seconds.
Well, we approach the corner now, and he's a long way back. Like, we know these closing speeds are phenomenal, and he looks...
I think this might just be an unfortunate coming together racing
incident. Think so too, yeah. There was enough room for them there, and then, yeah, they just kind of became one unexpectedly, and nothing lost minus some time, which is good. I don't think there was any real... It doesn't look like there's major damage on either car, as we see. Is that catch pole that's been spun at the carousel?
Yes, that's a difficult place to go through as it is on for the lead, and it's a three-way fight. Matt Andrews has lost a ton of time in the last couple of laps, probably due to prototype traffic and having to make his way around, maybe having to make his way around an incident or two. That has brought Dean Mole and Alexander Sheridan right into the fold. So it's Audi versus two Lamborghinis now for the lead of GT3. And they've got some prototype traffic coming through the two avatar cars of Burns and Bowen. Of course, Burns with that incident a little earlier. Is there going to be a move here into turn one? No, Mole has to go wide to let those prototypes through.
This is, of course, only going to hinder Matt Andrews now as well. Maybe not as much as I first thought, but he didn't get that run into turn two that he would have wanted to pretty much slingshot him up the hill. More lap traffic as well. Won't be too much of an issue, but the dive from Bowen and Bowen and Thomas, sorry, needed to be... Oh, that was a very sideways out of the bus stop. Thomas there.
Oh, there we go. Andrews losing it over the curbs. And that is the lead lost for the privateer. He just hit the curb wrong on the way into the bus stop and then caught the grass in the second phase of the chicane. And that sent him right into the wall. He is stopped now on the outside of the carousel with heavy damage. We'll get another view of it here. See the way the car reacts across the curb there. And as we go to a little bit of slow-mo, he will catch the grass, and he had it recovered until he had caught the grass, and then the car just overcorrected on him. And with that heavy both front and rear contact with the wall, I think that might well be almost race over for Matt Andrews. He is struggling to keep that car in a straight line now as we go back to live pictures, but he should still have a spare car in hand. Very unfortunate, though, that he lost the lead in that fashion. No other cars were involved.
Yeah, he was driving a brilliant race, and to get up to be leading was very well driven by him. He's still struggling, to keep the car in a straight line, but Blake Neck's caught up to Brady McHugh. We knew it was coming, we just didn't know when. And Blake Neck obviously has a fuel and tyre advantage over McHugh, sorry.
No worries. I was just going to mention that Dean Mole has let Alexander Sheridan by for the lead of GT. Of course, Sheridan and Mole both part of the same outfit at Kinetic Avatar. So Sheridan now back into the lead. But right on board now with Daniel Stevens, who's continuing to chase down Dwayne Burns. A little bit of GT traffic helping his momentum somewhat. And Stevens has made a couple of mistakes so far in this race, but he's still kept himself in with a shot at a top five. Of course, Burns will be looking to try his best to keep things going here. And I'll correct myself from earlier, it was Shane Bowen who ended up making the contact with the Audi just before. Got the 7 and the 19 confused for some reason, but Blake Neck is caught right up to Brady McHugh now. And this little bit of GT traffic, Neck a little bit better on the throttle. He's going to be right behind McHugh coming onto the start-finish straight, and this could be a move on as Robert Northway comes into the pits. And well, there we go, McHugh is going to make his way into the pits as well. That is the end of that stint. He locks up on entry, just taps the wall. Going to grab another virtual racing school replay here of Daniel Stevens making the move on Dwayne Burns, finally getting up the inside of him coming into the bus stop. And or does Burns fight it? Yeah, he tried to, but locked up on entry, and that's going to be an easy position gain there for Daniel Stevens.
Yeah, kind of a bit of a mental game, that one, which I always love seeing, psyching other drivers out. I think that's probably some of my favourite passing moments, is when drivers psych each other out and force them into a very obvious mistake like that, and made it perfectly. He was there and thereabouts, but I don't think he quite had the corner, but it was just enough to psych him out, and got through nice and cleanly. Both drivers got through cleanly, which is the important thing. I was going to say that Thomas Hinz just at the back of shot of Blake Neck now, or in the fourth shot, I guess, depends on which shot it was part of that GT traffic that Blake Neck had to work his way through to get past Brady McHugh last lap. But thankfully, coming up to the heel of the boot, Hinsey pulled over and slammed on the brakes, so Neck got through just before we got to this section here. So, as we've said before, Hinsey's a very good driver, especially in multi-class races. He's very patient, and he knows that his race isn't with Blake Neck. So, very well done, Hinsey, again.
Brady McHugh now out of the pits. He took tyres on that last pit stop, so when he takes his next pit stop, there should just be a little splash of fuel to get him through the final few minutes as he lines up a move on Shane Bowen across the curbs. Bowen lets him go there, and a bit compromised through the middle of the corner as well. He's got JM Thomas just up behind him now as well, but Thomas is, of course, a lap down as things stand, as McHugh tries to work his way through the GT traffic here. Just up ahead of McHugh, we've got Nick McMillan, who is currently in 10th place in prototype. Actually, no, McMillan is currently in 12th. My timing was showing the positions on the last lap, as it looks like Daniel Stevens has brought it into the lane. He's going to surrender 3rd place to Dwayne Burns, and he's made it 24 laps on that stint. Not bad at all. Interesting to note that Brady McHugh, he only made it 23 laps on that particular stint, and Blake Neck is coming up to start his 23rd lap now as McHugh, oh dear, he's facing off against the battle between Loxton and Loxton and Francis here, and it's going to be quite interesting. These two guys are battling for 10th place in prototype at the moment. It looks like Loxton has lost a great deal of pace through the carousel. So Brady McHugh might not be too happy with how things are going at the moment with this kind of traffic.
No, absolutely not. But at the same time, everyone else has their own race. So even though these guys will be getting blue flags, you have to be really strategic with it as well. We have Adrian Stefan in the pits as well as we watch this battle. And Loxton's still holding France. No, sorry. Loxton and France is still going at it, but McHugh is stuck there. No, it's not. My timing's messing up.
He is. Again. He is still stuck behind those two, riding on board with him at that particular time. Actually, no. Riding on board with a different car, it seems. That was Francis. He's running the same livery as Brady McHugh. They are part of the same team as Dwayne Burns brings it in from 3rd in prototype. And man, this is right on the cusp here for Dwayne Burns of having to make a splash and dash for something like 10 minutes worth of fuel, as Matt Andrews, who's now back out on the racetrack, making his way past Chalker, and he has got some prototypes for company, one of them there being Robert Northway in the number 46, and Adam Halleck as well, I believe.
Yeah, it's very
That's Chirocci. He's currently leading prototype. That's not right. Currently last in prototype, actually.
Yeah, the only two cars behind him are Carl Burke and Isaac, that we lost very early on in the race. So still circulating those, getting his lap counts up. He is 3 laps down on the top 5, who are the only cars on the lead lap, ignoring pit cycles. Adam Halleck is the first car a lap down. He's going into the bus stop now, so whatever reference you're after, Blake Neck's going through the ankle of the boot now, so he's about a lap and a half behind the lead cars. Neck getting past JM Thomas now, who we know is on his big recovery drive, so
well, the Avatar cars,
spread out.
Yeah, definitely a big spread in the field. Well, I'm not seeing any battles, that is to say, cars separated by a second or less for position, showing up on my timing. And I noticed that Burns and Bowen were pitting together. They've both made their way out of the pit lane. Bowen, of course, coming in a little later. They've both taken tyres there. As we get the number 81 of Jaden Hopp in the Boysenberry Motorsport livery. Certainly a lovely purple colour on the front of that machine. Let's see if he decides to go up on the jacks here. There we go. Yes, indeed. And it looks like some repairs going on there as well. Saw the front bumper of that machine buff out a little bit. It's been a good drive from Jaden Hopp, up 6, along with Adam Halleck. Blake Neck is now on the 26th lap of his stint as looks like Francis here trying his best to keep Loxton behind once again.
I've been trying really hard all race to not make a joke, but France is probably praying for a miracle to keep Loxton behind him for the rest of the race, and hopefully GT Traffic will answer those prayers.
Yes. Giving him their blessing, the GT Traffic at the moment, to keep Brett Loxton behind him. Blake Neck is coming up to the end of all dear. Got a GT spinner in turn 1 back there, not sure who that was. But Blake Neck is now approaching the end of the lap. That was Mark Newton. Oh, that's a shame there for Newton. He still maintains 4th in GT though, which is good for him. But Blake Neck brings it back into the lane from the lead of Prototype. We'll see what he can do. He's not going to be taking tyres, as that's what happened to Newton there. I think just a little bit of over rotation, the rear end going light, coming through the first corner. So for the Prototype lead then, Blake Neck bringing it into the box. We can expect him to not take tyres on this stop, and if all things go well, he should come out still in the lead ahead of Brady McHugh here.
That's probably what he's hoping for, because if he's running to a fuel number, which getting to 26 laps I think he kind of has to be, you don't really want your numbers being messed up.
Whoa.
because someone's trying to race you, as we talk about racing. Francis and Loxton still at each other's throats, and probably will still be for the next 38 minutes.
Yeah, goodness, Loxton had to take big avoiding action for the Porsche there on the outside of the hairpin. Goodness me, what a fight that is. Blake Neck's taking tyres again. That's interesting. Well, he had enough time back to McHugh to get it done, as McHugh crosses the start-finish line now. Looks like he might just take the lead here versus Blake Neck. It's going to be tight. Oh, they're side by side on the exit. You can't see Neck from that perspective, but there he goes. McHugh is going to try and fight him up here through the S's. Neck will still be on those cold tyres. They'll be coming up to temperature, but he's going to hold the inside now down the back stretch. McHugh with a bit of extra momentum around the outside, and Neck lifts off. Yeah, I think he's fairly confident, is Blake Neck, that he'll be able to get that move done and get the lead back.
Yeah, the fact that he managed to take tyres last stop, or his first stop, and then bring that gap down, and he's now taking tyres again, and the gap's only that. I don't think Blake Neck has too much to worry about. Even if both of them have to take an extra stop, Neck clearly has a pace advantage between the two of them, and now he has a tyre advantage as well as a fuel advantage and a pace advantage, so doesn't have a traffic advantage though. Actually he might, but
that's
again,
Alexander Sheridan, the leader of GT, they're trying to pass here.
Yeah, this is busy is what I'm going to call it.
Quite. And Simon Francis brings it into the lane. Brett Loxton staying out. Francis was on the 24th lap of his stint, completed 25 now, and Brett Loxton still has, I think, 2.5 laps or so before he can look at going into the lane again. Well, Blake Neck has not managed to get past Brady McHugh so far with all of that traffic drama, but it looks like a little bit of clear air just up ahead of them, and this will be a good opportunity for Neck to really put in the hard yards to try and get the lead of this race back. Proper on-track battle for the lead and prototype is what we love to see, and Neck's car is looking incredibly smooth over those curbs, which is really saying something considering how the Dallara behaves over the curbs. And there's a bit of traffic up ahead that they've come up to. It's Matt Andrews, still on that recovery drive with his spare car. Both prototypes make their way past him without issue.
Yeah, very well done. Not that either of those guys, being first and second on aggregate or not, are really going to be taking too many risks this far into the race, but now they've got a little bit of clean air. Next car is Thomas, who's a lap down after this early incident. Then a couple of GT3 cars and then more traffic, and it never ends. It's the Brisbane CBD at 5 o'clock on a Friday at Watkins Glen. But McHugh kind of getting good runs through traffic, but they're not excellent either. So it's really frustrating in that position. It's like, yes, I got traffic, but it's still slowing me down a tenth or two. And races like this are usually only separated by that. So that's ignoring Blake Neck's advantages in the pits, but you know, 10th win races, 1000th win races. We've seen it plenty of times on sim speed.
Larry. Oh, they have to split those two GTs for the prototype lead. Colin Bruns making his way past PJ Whiteman there. Blake Neck still stays behind, but McHugh's going to be compromised slightly here through the bus stop. Coming around the carousel, Blake Neck still keeping within a few car lengths of McHugh now. In other news, Brett Loxton has come in for a stop, and looks to me like he's deciding to take tyres there. No surprises. See what he can do to stay ahead of Simon Francis at this stage, as Thomas Hinds is also back in the pits as well for his 4th visit to the pits. And there is Simon Francis coming out of the final corner. Brett Loxton is out of the box. It looks to me like Francis will truly have the advantage there. Or will he?
I'm not too sure about that.
He won't. I thought that Loxton was still stopped. He wasn't. He's come out ahead of Francis.
And if Loxton's just taken tyres, then did Francis must have taken tyres. Yeah, okay. So tyre advantage is to Loxton, but it's only by a lap. So take of that as what you will, but I don't think there's too much in that. So now it's pretty much a sprint to the end for these guys, I think.
One thing that we should highlight, they should probably be able to make it to the end without having to make another stop, but one thing we should highlight is that Brady McHugh is part of the Sportsman division, and Blake Neck, of course, Pro. So while the overall victory, if things stay the same at this stage, would go to McHugh, Blake Neck would still be the Pro winner of the event, and he would lead the Pro standings coming into the next round. And Pro and Sportsman are divided in terms of iRating, but of course iRating isn't always the best indicator of pace. Obviously McHugh very comfortable in the prototypes here, as we have Sam Harper trying to catch up with Dean Mole here. Alexander Sheridan just made his way into the pit lane. That's interesting, seeing how much time Sheridan has lost. I'm wondering if there was a mistake. Oh, there was almost a move for the lead in prototype. McHugh and Neck got caught up behind Peter Matson, but their positions are staying the same as things stand. I'm going to go back and check to see if anything has happened to Alexander Sheridan. The pit stop went okay for him, but we completely missed this. Alexander Sheridan had a spin at the ankle of the boot on his lap 48, and Lake Neck getting held up a little bit by that GT traffic coming out of turn 1. But yeah, Alexander Sheridan going for a very lazy spin, and he's lost an absolute ton of time. We'll get a look at it here on the Virtual Racing School replay. This would have been a little bit after. There we go. Sheridan, oh, that was almost a dangerous re-entry, but you'll see he just loses the rear coming into the ankle of the boot, and since he had an awful lot of cars coming up on him, he couldn't exactly do anything to get going.
Yeah, that's cost him a lot of time. He did come in for just a splash and dash, so I'm wondering if maybe some of the GT3 cars, and yeah, like you said, very lazy, just back end, just kind of just shrugs its shoulders there, nothing major, but losing a lot of time, like you said, with all that traffic. He did come in for a splash and dash, so I'm wondering if some of these GT cars are either pushing too much or didn't save enough in the first stint to get them, oh, that was close, just get them over that hour mark. So we'll have to wait and see what like Dean Mole and Sam Harper and Mark Newton do towards the end of their race. So that's a very slow Mercedes GT3 car. Just got passed by our leaders. I don't know who that was though.
Maybe it might have been this machine. Catch pole here, bringing into the lane and crabbing as well. Gotten some... No, that wasn't catch pole.
No, it's Dave Trevethan. Yeah.
Yeah, well, so Trevethan, he's taken his spare car. I did notice that the car was moving to the side in a straight line, so there was very heavy damage for Trevethan. And have you spotted that, Brad?
Yes, ankle of the boot again. He went a bit wide coming out of the carousel, like bumped over the grass a little bit, and we'll get the VRS replay up right now. That's him, yeah. Yes, so he comes out wide here, gets a little bit of a bump, and then a bit of net code, actually quite a bit of net code from the LMP car, and yeah, as you see, very heavy damage to the outside wall there. So
that was either Burns or Bowen.
Yeah, a lot of cars coming unstuck.
Number 19, Dwayne Burns.
Yes, a lot of cars coming unstuck late in this race, unfortunately, but fatigue does set in even just for a 2-hour race, which is still demanding.
For sure. Well, now we're checking in again here on Simon Francis. Coming through the... sorry, it's Julian Mookie. My apologies. Mookie has Brett Loxton not too far behind him to the tune of about 14 seconds. But this is the battle for the lead in GT3 at the moment, with Alexander Sheridan taking himself out. It's now Mole who leads the way from Harper, and that is the number 9 of Simon Francis making his way past them. They go past PJ Whitehead as well in one of the BMWs. Goodness me. Very tight fighting here in the final stint. But Mole and Harper now on the 18th lap of their stint. Will they be able to make it to the end without an extra splash of fuel?
They made it 33 laps was when Sam Harper pitted at the end of his first stint. So the fact that they've done, what did you say?
They're on their 18th lap.
18th lap, sorry, mine. Ooh, VRS replay. What have we missed this time? So much going on, so much math. Missing all the incidents.
No incident, but an overtake for third in prototype. Robert Northway getting past Daniel Stevens, coming down the front straight. What an excellent recovery it has been from Robert Northway.
Yeah, absolutely have been. I raced with Robert Northway many, many years ago, and he's a very down-to-earth guy, and I always like seeing him do well. So very, like you said, very good recovery after some early incidents that put him further back than he would have liked. And that was a very nice, not quite undercut, but a very nice move into turn 1.
Sam Harper has passed Dean Mole for the lead in GT3. That was coming up through the S's. And that happened with a great run down the start-finish straight and an inside move into turn 1. They ran side by side through the S's, but Mole has given up the position to Harper now. Goodness me, I feel like I've commentated a 24-hour race at this stage with how much has gone on in this session.
Yeah, I guess that's the beauty of multi-class racing at a track like this. It's not too long, so you have big gaps like, oh, the number 7 Toyota passes 6 GTE cars down the Mulsanne straight. We see Halleck and Bowen getting very close towards the end of their stints, or the end of the race, 25 minutes to go, but because of Watkins Glen length and the speed difference between the two classes, it's just constant action. And I was actually going to bring up, now that we've switched to the lead paddle for LMP2, Blake Neck drifted off at the start of this lap, but he's caught right back up, so I think that was traffic more than anything. Q running very wide there, getting through past the second place car of Sam Harper, and a lead car, sorry, of Sam Harper, but it's getting spicy with 24.5 minutes to go.
Very wide out of turn 1 for Brady McHugh. Might have overshot it slightly, but Blake Neck is going to be well in draft range coming onto the back stretch. They've got Gavin Barber up ahead of them in the MFR Ferrari. They both go to the inside. Blake Neck having to compromise his entry just a little bit, but as we've seen, just a few corners worth of traffic can make all the difference in the prototype class. It is still McHugh who leads the way from Blake Neck.
It is on paper, but by some maths in the production booth, we're thinking that McHugh is going to have to pit with about 6 minutes left on the clock, which is 4 laps to go, if my rough math is correct. So I think Brady McHugh is just trying to keep Blake Neck behind him as long as he can, because he knows that that's coming, and I don't think he can quite save 4 laps worth of fuel, but it's going to be interesting how those last 5 minutes play out for McHugh.
Something happening here with Jonathan Bean looking to make his way past a Ferrari. We're going to go back live. Unfortunately, weren't able to quite get the replay there. Something happened at the bus stop between those two cars, and Bean is still in 5th, but some ways back from Ryan Mulder, who was at the wheel of that Ferrari.
Yeah, I'm trying to go back and see what it was, but iRacing is not playing ball today for me either, so I guess that one will be a mystery or something we can hopefully revisit later, but with as much action as we have going on, I'm not too confident that we'll get that. But, oh no, that was, who was that? Luke Critchley, having a little bit of contact off of the side of Brady McHugh as they just went through the carousel. It wasn't much, but unless he lost that on his own, I'm not quite sure from that angle, but there was something that disturbed his car and he went around.
Yeah, we'll get the replay of it then. Critchley and McHugh together, and Critchley, it looks like maybe a little bit of understeer in the mid-corner. McHugh, though, going right to the inside and just tagged the Mercedes on the front left, and that's a very awkward place to stop there on the inside of the carousel. You have to rely on your F3 black box to see whether or not cars are coming, and anyone coming through there, well, the inside of the corner is blocked by the wall, so you can't exactly do anything about it if a car goes across the track in front of you. Here's the view from Blake Neck's perspective as McHugh comes down, and yeah, just looked like a bit of understeer there for Luke Critchley. That's a shame.
Very lucky for Blake Neck as well, because he had to go out quite wide to avoid that. It is a camber to the inside, but the trajectory of Critchley's car was going out wide as well, so very well avoided by Blake Neck as well. And now he's got some catching up to do. It's about 2.5 seconds, 3 seconds by my timing between McHugh and Neck, but of course Neck having that pit advantage is less to worry about, as we see James Thomas in the pits for his last stop.
20 minutes to go. That's well within the fuel tank range, but the lead is now out to over 3 seconds between McHugh and Neck. Blake has got an awful lot of work to do here. Remember, McHugh, we're expecting him to pit with 6 minutes to go, but Blake Neck, we're not too sure about it. I actually think that Neck will be able to just make it to the end on fuel here. He might finish with maybe a litre or so in the tank, but the way things have been going for him, he's done more than all right, and probably still the favourite for victory at this stage.
Yeah, absolutely, and that is going to be quite hairy for him if it is close like we're thinking it might be. But I don't know, I'm wondering if that's maybe why his gap, minus that incident, obviously had stretched out to about 2.5, 3 seconds, just to try and save that little bit of extra fuel while he can, because it's still sitting at 3.5 seconds, and I do think that Blake Neck has the pace advantage over Brady McHugh, but I guess we have to wait until 3 or 4 laps to go to find out what the situation is for both of them.
Matt Andrews is doing well on his recovery, by the way, in 14th, chasing down Colin Bruns. This is a pretty good run for him indeed. We do have Dean Moll in 2nd place in GT up ahead of these two, and Matt Andrews, I think, will be ruining the incident that happened, because if things had stayed the same, he would have been battling with Moll for track position. But this is going to be up to lucky 13 for him. Not the best of exits for Bruns. He is carrying some front end damage from incidents sustained earlier. Let's see what Andrews can do here down the back stretch. Looks like he does have a straight line speed advantage over the Merc, and will draw up alongside. He's gotten a little bit of damage back in intervening laps as well, but that is going to be the position gained for him. Now back up to 13th. The next car up is Gavin Barber, and he's just coming into the ankle of the boot now. As there is Simon Francis going for his final pit stop. That was a very long stop for Simon Francis. It was also a really long stop for JM Thomas. 1 minute 49 for JM Thomas, but Simon Francis 3 minutes and 21 seconds. I'm not too sure what's going on there. Maybe he sustained a great deal of damage that we didn't see, or perhaps messing up his settings slightly. I have no idea.
Yeah, I'm unsure as well. I didn't even pick that up. I don't know, he has lost, like you said, a lot of time. He's lost pretty much 2 laps, because he was with Brett Loxton, who's now 2 laps ahead of him, so he's lost a big chunk of time, but Loxton's car looks untouched, so...
Oh, I see what happened to Francis. He actually towed. He suffered an issue. If we can get a replay of that on his lap 59. I have no idea what's happened to him here. Oh, I've just seen it. It was at the start of lap 59 for Simon Francis. He made contact with Colin Bruns in turn 1. And what on earth has gone on here? Dan Stevens and Robert Northway have come together as well. So, oh wow, that is huge. Well, Simon Francis sustaining damage from his contact with Colin Bruns. He has had to limp through to the carousel. This is what happened to Robert Northway. What has gone on here? Did Northway have a spin, or did another car have a spin? Not quite sure what's gone on here. It's in the heel of the boot, so we're going to have to wait a few more seconds to see how this incident happened. So, nothing happening so far. What has happened at the heel? Ah, is Northway... No, he didn't come together with the BMW. Unfortunately, replay has gone back a bit too fast, so we haven't quite been able to catch that incident, but Robert Northway now down into 5th place. And Simon Francis back out on track. start of lap 59 is the incident that Simon Francis ended up getting his front left damaged. It's a shame for Francis. He wasn't running too badly up before this point.
No, he had a very strong race, being with Brett Loxton. Of course, neither of them having the race they probably wanted to have, but they had a very good battle for just outside the top 10 quite early on that we saw. And oh, I've just seen someone else have an incident as well.
Well, this is what happened. Francis trying to go up the inside of Bruns. It looked like a bit of an optimistic move at best, and even more damage there. That has completely cooked the front left suspension, and you'll see Francis really struggle to keep it in a straight line there. He ended up pulling over in the carousel and towing back to the pits. That's why he had such a long stop. And he's back in the pits again.
Brady McHugh made contact. That's what I saw in the back of screen as you guys were going
that is
to
Brady
replay. Danny Vassal coming into the last corner ran a bit wide. Brady McHugh went to go around the outside, and they just had it coming together, and Brady McHugh very, very hard into the outside wall, which I'm assuming, right there.
Oh man, that's a shame there for Brady. And Danny Vassal looked like he might have had a right to the line there on the exit. I think that might have been a bit of an optimistic move there from Brady McHugh, but either way, that's gonna well and truly give the lead back to Blake Neck. What's going on now?
Brady McHugh's just been absolutely murdered by a GT car spinning out of the bus stop after he's come out of the pits. It was PJ Whiteman. Hopefully we'll get that replay up very soon.
Yeah, oh my goodness, I've just seen it myself.
Again. Adrian Stefan coming out of the bus stop. Oh, massive net code on the BMW of PJ Whiteman, sends him out into the barrier, and he bounces across in front of Brady McHugh. There's absolutely nothing that PJ could have done differently there. That was just awful net code, and momentum just can't be stopped instantly. Unfortunately, the physics don't allow it, so we'll get that replay very, very shortly, because it's just up ahead of where we are now.
Indeed. Well, from McHugh's perspective, this would have been quite the surprise. Whitehead and Stefan make contact, and bam, there we go. And that's completely destroyed the front suspension of McHugh's car once again. And he is currently down in the pit lane. It actually looks like he might have exited the session. That's heartbreaking for Brady McHugh. He put on some really good driving throughout the race and would have certainly secured second place, but well, that's just the way multi-class racing goes sometimes. That has promoted Dwayne Burns into third place. Jaden Hopp now running second, 2.5 seconds ahead of him.
I've also noticed that Thomas Hinz has also retired from this race, but I don't know where that was. I
think he just pulled it back into the pits and decided to exit.
Okay.
We're hearing that he might have done the minimum amount of laps required for a classified finish. He's thinking about points there.
Fair enough. That's not what I expected, but obviously very much entitled to do that. But I guess now Blake Neck just has to take this as calmly as he wants, because he only has a minute and 12-second lead, and it's growing. So only the top 3 cars are on the lead lap after Northway, Brady and Francis's incidents. So, and even second and third are 3.5 seconds apart. So this battle, however, is not so calm.
No, certainly not. It's Nick McMillan trying to chase down Daniel Stevens for 7th place. Yes, Adrian Stefan trying to chase down Nick McMillan for 8th. McMillan has had quite a few adventures in this race so far. He's been right in the thick of it when it comes to the battles, but he's managed to keep the car clean and hold on for the time being. Been quite
Yeah,
a
he
good
definitely
drive for
has.
him.
Yes, I was about to say exactly that. He's been on screen quite a bit, and not in any bad ways from memory. And
Whoa! That's
who was that?
Stevens, is it?
No, Thomas
No, Thomas, sorry.
having a big lock up into the toe. Oh no, he had a spin with it. Oh no, that was a big incident. If we could go back and watch that,
Oh, yeah.
please, Mr. Director. That was ugly. Simon Francis involved again. Brady Matheson and J.M. Thomas coming into the toe of the boot. That was big.
Yeah, we'll see it happen here. I think we should probably focus on Francis for this because that's where the incident happened. Tried his best to split Matheson and Stuart Elder in the Porsche, who were running side by side on the exit, but just Matheson, he was trying to move over to the left to make room for J.M. Thomas, but that just resulted in all three cars coming together.
Yeah, and the Mercedes of Mark Newton as well got tagged in that a little bit. He's got a bit of front right damage. I think it's, front right damage on his Mercedes as well. Nothing too major, but be impacting your straight line nonetheless. And yeah, that was a big one with 10 minutes to go. That's kind of the opposite of what you want to be happening.
Yeah, right at the dying stages of the race, it's the worst possible time for an incident like that to happen. But Adrian Stefan here continuing to chip away at number 8, Nick McMillan. In terms of lap time, well, they're actually quite close. Stefan took a 10th out of McMillan on the previous lap, so it's still on for 8th in prototype. Oh dear, Stefan getting a little bit held up by the Mercedes of Mark Newton, who nearly had a spin there. Well held by Mark Newton. And that's a turn that's actually quite easy to spin out of. The uphill really encourages you to get on the throttle early. Still on for 5th place in GT as well. It's Merck versus Merck. Jonathan Bain versus Josh Robertson. And Robertson has had a fantastic run here. Up 12 from where he started. Of course, at least one of those, well, actually 3 of those positions are going to be prototypes, but there's still a great run, and he's going to make it another position here as he gets up the inside of the middle finger Mercedes into the heel, but he tries his best to hold on to it, does Jonathan Bain. He's going to have the inside now for the left-hander. Will Robertson be able to hold it around the outside? Yes, he will. Goodness me. This kind of racing in the second half of the lap, Robertson's still holding it side by side. This is fantastic racing, and he's managed to get the position coming into the final corner.
That was great, and I've said it before, I'm going to say it again. This is why we love this new update. Is now Barnes going to go for the send up the inside, pulls out of it at the last second. That was very sportsman of him. He didn't have to do that, but I guess, I mean, he's a pro driver. He's not a sportsman driver. Haha, good one, Bradley. Sorry, I hate myself as well. It's okay.
I don't hate you.
Thanks, Reese. But yeah, he could have sent that back into turn 1 because it's very banked as well. So he would have had, the corner to help him make the corner. But decides to maybe go for the bust up and pulls out of that one as well. So, I lost track of where I was. Yeah, definitely not.
Well, look, Robertson's going to get up the inside of Matt Chalker here. They've got a prototype for company. It's Gabor Tarocci, and that has further held up Jonathan Bain, and it looks like he's going to lose out to Josh Robertson there. A big gap between them now. There's also making his way through was Jaden Hopp, running P2 in the P2 class.
Yeah, we haven't really said a lot about Jaden Hopp this race compared to, Robert Northway or Blake Mack or Daniel Stevens. So, a quiet race is more times than not a good race because it means you're staying out of all the incidents, and he's up 8 spots because of that. So I think that's a very brilliant drive. In saying that, Dwayne Burns is only a second and a half behind with 6 minutes on the dot to go. So it's not over yet, but even still, up 8 spots in a field like this is a fantastic drive.
Oh, just as you say that, he caught the curb on the exit of turn 1 and the front end of the car was launched into the air. That might potentially be some underfloor damage for Hop, but I'm not too sure. But yeah, like you say, 8 positions gained. That is the most positions gained in the entire prototype class in this race. It's been nothing short of amazing to see from Jaden Hop, nailing the pit strategy, nailing the traffic management, and yeah, all up a fantastic drive. Even if he ends up finishing in 3rd out of this, he should certainly be happy with his performance.
Absolutely, and he has a lap over Robert Northway in 4th place as well. So if Dwayne Burns does catch up to him, and that gap is now down to 1 second, or so 1.5 at the start of the lap, he can fight it if he wants. Of course, he's enabled to, but he also can just cruise home as he runs very wide on exit through the heel of the boot there. And yeah, like you said, get that 3rd position with no real challenge from behind is nothing to shrug at.
Nick McMillan bringing it into the lane for a final splash and dash there. He's going to fall down to 9th place and last on the lead lap in the prototype class. So that's the end of that battle with Adrian Stefan. At least for the time being, it looks like Stefan might have to bring it in for a splash and dash in the last 2 minutes or something like that to make sure that he can get to the end. So that battle for 8th place in prototype not over as, wow, goodness me. Dwayne Burns threading the needle between the GT traffic through the S's. And we've got Brett Loxton, the leader of the cars, a lap down just behind him as well. This is a scintillating battle for 2nd place in prototype.
You can do nothing but applaud that from Dwayne Burns. That was chef's kiss. That was very nice to watch him slice through those GT3 cars. If I was one of those GT3 cars, I probably would have had clenched buttocks during that, but he drove that very well. So if that's your one highlight for the race, Dwayne Burns, I commend you, because that was brilliant.
I think it's been a race full of highlights for Burns. Remember, he had that spin very early on, and he's been trying to work his way back up ever since. He's taken advantage of other cars in his class having problems, issues, long time spent in the pits. As that is Adrian Stefan bringing it into the lane. So the battle between himself and Nick McMillan. Well, he's managed to make it out of his box as McMillan has just exited the final turn. So I think he might have just gotten this. Not too sure. Is he out of the pits? Adrian Stefan is out of the pits, and he is ahead of McMillan. As just up ahead of them, we saw Barber and Andrews. They're fighting for 12th position now in GT3. And Dwayne Burns jumping into the lane. He has reached the end of his stint. Jaden Hop will probably bring it in the next lap as well. Waiting to see, though, does he have enough left in the tank to make it to the end without stopping? Now that Burns has stopped and there is quite the gap. How far behind is Robert Northway? He's coming through the S's. Jaden Hop is, 25 seconds ahead of him, just about. So Jaden potentially could lift and coast for this final 2 minutes if he's short on fuel and still get second.
Yeah, he absolutely can. He does have Brett Loxton for company, but Loxton is a lap down on Jaden Hop, so he could let him go, no worries, but massive gaggle of GT3 cars making life extra hard for them in these last 100 seconds or so. But this is going to be really, really important if this is a pit stop, because he's just lost a lot of time with that GT3 traffic, and Dwayne Burns coming up towards the heel of the boot now, and he's staying out. So does he have 2 laps of fuel left? That's the $1 million question for Jaden Hop. Or he's coming down towards turn 2 now. Blake Neck's just crossed the finish line. Does Jaden Hop kind of lift and coast just to let Blake Neck pass and only have to do 1 lap and save that fuel? That's what I
certainly
would do if I
afford
was
to
in
do
his
that.
position. Yeah, he's got the gap to do it, so why not?
Yeah, why not indeed? But it actually looks like he's keeping up the pace quite a bit. Maybe he is okay on field for these last couple of laps. But it is white flag for Blake Neck. He is faced off against all sorts of challenges from the likes of Brady McHugh. And he's taking his time here, making his way past Dean Moll, who maintains second in
I was going to say,
GT3.
sorry to interrupt, we have a battle for
Oh.
6th and 7th place on this second last lap. Might even be the last lap as well. Blake Neck is just behind these guys. I've got a battle for 4th, 5th and 6th as well. It's popping off in GT3 with 6 seconds to go.
Wow, and the timer hits 0. It is the final lap now for Blake Neck. There's still positions to be sorted throughout the field, but nothing short of a consummate professional drive from Blake Neck, as we would expect from him. You know, every time Blake decides to show up for a race in the majors, he stamps his authority on the rest of the field. He loves these fast cars. He loves downforce, stiff suspension, all that sort of stuff, and really showing his worth once again. Final corner then for Blake Neck. Maybe one more GT to pass before the start-finish line, maybe not. Blake Neck is going to take victory in the first round of the International Division of the Majors here at Watkins Glen, and he will lead the standings. Jaden Hopp is still making his way around at racing speed on his final lap. A fantastic run for him. Sam Harper takes victory, it seems. It looks like he'll win by a lap because he was ahead of Blake Neck, and Dean Moll was behind Blake Neck. So that's going to be a dominant victory there for Sam Harper, saved by the bell right at the very end. But Jaden Hopp, he's trying to make his way past cars here, I think, that are still trying on their cool-down laps. Can Ryan Mulder get 6th place at the final corner? It's going to be neck and neck here between Mulder and Bain, and Mulder, oh, he's just going to get it.
I don't know what that delta was, but that was so
There
close
you go.
between the two of them. Oh, there we go, yeah.
Wow.
Not bad, not bad at all.
15 thousandths of a second
Oh
deciding
no,
position.
what have I just...
Oh,
Someone's
Bain and
just had an
Catchpole.
incident.
There was, sorry, Tregarthen and Catchpole was, yeah, that is an incident. That's the number
Yeah.
8. That's Nick McMillan. He spun. But I think that's, I think he's already gone to the finish. No, he hasn't. So he might end up losing a couple of positions out of that. But either way, we do have our GT winner coming through here. The Forge RG Recce driver, Sam Harper, number 52, started well in the class and comes home to take victory by a full lap over every other driver in his class. And in both classes, the driver who started second ended up winning the race.
Poles, not everything, especially in a race like this, and we say anything can happen in an endurance race, and I think we just had everything happen in that one. So qualifying's not everything, and very big congrats to Blake Neck and Sam Harper for converting second into first.
Well, here are your results. Top 10 in prototype. Jaden Hopp, the only other car to finish on the lead lap, with Robert Northway getting third. A fantastic recovery for him after his early pit stop. Also a brilliant recovery for Dwayne Burns, who comes home in fourth. Adam Halleck is going to end up fifth, with Daniel Stevens in sixth. Then it's Bowen, Stefan and Loxton, with McMillan rounding out your top 10. That's a shame for Nick McMillan. He could certainly have finished a few positions up further. Julian Mookie, Chaston Teets, Gabor Chirocci and JM Thomas round out our prototype field that finished ahead of the GTs, Brad.
Yeah, Sam Harper was that GT car to bring everyone home by a lap, like you said. Dean Moll, the American, taking second place, and Mark Newton, after his very turbulent race, finishes in third place. Joshua Robertson, Alexander Sheridan and Ryan Mulder round out the top 20 and the top 6 in GT3s.
Yes, Jonathan Bain coming home just behind. Then it's Catchpole, Trevethan, Pacifici, Matt Andrews, a bit of a heartbreak story there. He was one of the drivers fighting for the win in the GT class, but big incident ended up putting him out of contention. Gavin Barber coming home 26 overall. Brady McHugh will still get a classified finish despite that huge crash, only 10 laps down. Then it's Qi Wang, Stuart Elder, and Colin Burns rounding out the top 30.
A lot of non-finishers outside the top 30. We have Danny Visal after his very late incident, Matt Chalker in 32nd, Peter Madison and Pierre Cousin, Simon Francis having a very, very up and down, mostly down race at the end, finishes 35th, Corey Horter 36th, Phil Otto 37th, Connor Brown 38th, Thomas Hinds retiring with 16 laps in the bank, Craig Hawkins finishes in 40th.
41st was Jake Fox. Bradley Matheson suffering huge damage along the way, as well as Luke Critchley, PJ Whiteman as well. Carl Burke retiring 34 laps from the end. Josh Banks, another one of the drivers that was fighting for victory in GT. It did not go his way. Harrison Lilas, Alex Spinozzi, Iago Moraes out early, as well as Isaac Snyder and Robert Bistrovich. Unfortunately for Glen Watkins, a thunderstorm put paid to his race right at the very start. Well, we move on now to driver interviews. First driver we're going to talk to is our winner, Blake Neck. Congratulations, Blake, on your victory. Looked to me like fuel strategy was the way to go for you, extending your stints just a little bit further.
Hi, Race. Thanks for having me. Yeah, about 10 minutes into the race, I had a look at my fuel numbers, and it showed I was about 10 litres above taking one stop. So I just fuel saved for as long as I could to get that down, so I'd only take one full tank towards the end.
Definitely worked out for you. How was the traffic? Because, there was so much activity out on track, we could barely keep track of what was going on. Very tight fighting here at Watkins Glen, especially with these fast corners.
Yeah, the traffic was a bit intense here. Lots of side-by-side with the GT cars, so it was a bit tough in some spots. But you just got to be a little bit patient. Although in the last half an hour, it felt like they're all throwing themselves at me, spinning in front and just having to avoid them, keeping the car clean.
Well, keep the car clean you did, and you will lead the pro standings coming into the next round. Is this going to be a full season attempt for you this year?
I'm hoping so. Looking forward to the schedule. It looks really good this year, but we'll see how it pans out through the year.
Well, we'll hopefully see you at round 2, Necky. Before we let you go, anyone you'd like to thank? Any shout-outs or sponsors?
Just shout out to Brand and the guys at TriStar Racing for taking me on.
Well, brilliant stuff from Blake Neck, taking a dominant victory here tonight at Watkins Glen. Next up is the recovered Robert Northway, coming home in 3rd place in prototype, stood by with Brad.
Robert, that was a very turbulent race for you. Can you give us a 2-sentence rundown, one for each hour, of all of the chaos that went on from your point of view?
Oh, really, it was the first 6 laps and then the rest of the race for me. First 6 laps was a bit of a struggle, even when it was going okay, and then I got caught up in that early accident. And then it was really a case of just absolutely flat out for the rest of the race. Probably pissed a few of the GT cars off of my aggression, but I felt like I had nothing to lose after that early incident. It made me basically have to have an extra pit stop.
Yeah, I did bring that up earlier on to see how that would play into people like yourself that were affected by that first lap incident. You, thankfully, managed to skate your way through. You had a bit of a tight battle with Dwayne Burns towards the end. Any highlights from that, or was it kind of fuel saving or balls to the wall between the two of you?
I was just dead on tyres. I'd gone about an hour and 15 minutes or so on one set of tyres, and those tyres I was used up because I was doing qualifying laps. So I was just watching the laps to go point and just praying it wouldn't arrive. It would arrive a bit faster, that I wouldn't get an extra lap or two.
Yeah, well, you managed to make it work in the end, and the end is all that matters, I guess. Did you have a strategy coming into the race? It obviously didn't matter after that early incident, but did you have a fuel number, or were you trying to run as quick as you could for as long as you could?
No, after doing some practice and some testing, I knew that fuel saving to get to the 40-minute for each stint mark was not going to be worth it. So my strategy was basically to run 30 minutes each time, just run flat out the whole way and just use your stuff up.
Well, guess it kind of worked in the end, ignoring that incident that I won't bring up again, I promise. Anyone you'd like to thank tonight before we let you go?
I actually will just say just the entire GT field, or the vast majority of them drove really well, kept it predictable, kept themselves predictable so you could choose your line, which I'm not used to when you do open iRacing races. They usually absolutely chaos from the GT, so it was good fun, and I thank the GT guys for some very clean racing.
Awesome. Well, thank you for A, putting on a fantastic show, and B, popping in. We look forward to seeing you next round, and hopefully you have a little bit of a better start than you did today.
Yeah, cheers. I've got a Daytona. I've got a bit of debt to settle after finishing a bumper away last year. Anyway, cheers, guys.
Good stuff there from Robert Northway. Great recovery to finish in third in prototype. And what we think will be the final driver interview of the night is our GT winner, number 52, Sam Harper. Well, Sam, that was quite the fight in GT early on. You were right in the mix.
Yeah, I didn't feel like I belonged there. I think I got quite lucky, actually. Looking at practice, like the attack practice before joining the race was like 14th or something. I thought, oh no, all the sportsmen are going to be quicker. And it was a bit hairy once the P2 started coming through. But it was okay early on, I suppose. But it was I was nervous about the fuel, so I thought I told G before the race, everybody's going to have to do 2 stops, and I think nobody did 2 stops in the end unless they had a crash. I don't think that would have worked if anybody had done 2 stops. I lost 15 seconds or something in the last 3 laps because I thought Blake Neck was going to come and lap me again, and then he didn't, so I had to do an extra lap. That was a bit hairy.
Yeah, certainly looked a bit hairy from our perspective as well, but still, it's a victory by a whole lap over everyone behind you, which you should certainly be happy with, and you'll lead the pro standings in the international division at least. Is this going to be a wildcard one-off appearance for you in international, focusing on European, or are you going international for the full season?
Nope, I'm going international for the full season. I will miss the Red Bull Ring race and the Classic Daytona, it looks like, which is a bit annoying because that's 2 road races, so always the drops. But I'm intending on doing the full season in international, netcode permitting.
Of course. Well, Daytona is the next round in the NASCAR Next Gen cars. How are you feeling about that?
I have absolutely no idea because I need to see if they patch it first.
Yeah, fair enough. Of course, some of the most constantly updated cars on the iRacing service are the next-gen NASCAR cars. Well, either way, Sam, congratulations once again on your victory. Is there anyone you'd like to thank for it?
Yeah, sure. I'd like to thank everybody at NRG Racing for putting up with me. I'd like to thank the guys at Ford for letting me run with them as a team this season in International. There's 3 of us. It's sort of like a collaboration thing. I'd like to thank my Ian Erasmus for doing that lovely paint. Unfortunately, the IMSA number boards arrived too late for us to apply them, so my number's wrong, but who cares? And you guys for broadcasting it, and my mum for giving birth to me, and my fiance for not leaving me. So yeah, pretty good.
I guess we better let you go and get some sleep, Sam, because it's obviously quite early for you in the UK. Sam Harper there, winner of GT3 here at Watkins Glen. Well, Brad, that brings to an end proceedings for tonight. The fun is not going to stop in the majors this season. 5th of February, we're going racing in the Daytona 500, as we mentioned, in the next-gen NASCAR Cup cars. That is certainly going to be a spectacle.
Yeah, it definitely is. Daytona's always a spectacle. It's not always about those first 175 laps. It's always after that last pit stop that things really go down. So the fact that we have the next-gen cars as well for the first official 500 is very exciting as well, so I can't wait.
Neither can I, and we hope you can join us on SimSpeed TV for that. Reminder that you can go to our friends at Global Sim Racing Channel, Radeon TV, and LSR TV for coverage of the European and Americas divisions this weekend. Head on over to their channels and check out their schedules. Also, chuck us a good old subscribe here on SimSpeed TV if this is your first time and you enjoyed what you saw. We've got racing most days of the week, pretty much every week of the year here on SimSpeed TV. I'm Reese Gardner. It was Bradley Wingard alongside me and Jay Kennedy on production. Round 1 of the International Division of the Majors Series went to Blake Neck and Sam Harper in Prototype and GT. We'll see you at Daytona.
This is fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction. He's got everything outside of both of them. Maloney.
Oh, he's taking Anderson. Anderson's up top
Oh
here.
my God! Big crash! Oh my goodness! Half the field's gonna get rolled.
Second very close. These guys I want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, there we go!
That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!
God, what?